Okay, I'd like to call to order the Parks, Property and Streets Committee meeting on Monday, July 6th at 1 p.m. Roll call, please. Nelson here.
Ernst here.
Val here.
Okay, and then, sorry, approval of the agenda for today's meeting. Do I have any corrections or a motion to approve?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
One quick question, should we work through the other stuff and then save the village administration building for last? So that we get through the other things for sure? Or, because I think that'll be the longest discussion piece is A. Or is that why it's first, because we want
I
to be
think we want
correct?
to do it
Well,
first.
there's
That's
no
what
other-
we did that way.
Yeah, just there's no other items that necessarily have anyone else associated with them.
Okay. Second,
Is that second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Well, comments, correspondence and concerns from the public. I didn't see any written in.
minutes, so did we approve the minutes?
Oh, I'm sorry, the minutes from last time. All right, the minutes from our meeting on Monday, June 1st. Approval of those minutes or any changes? Edits, corrections? Anyone? Okay, I will move to approve.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, sorry, now we will move on to comments, correspondence and concerns from the public. I didn't see anything in the packet.
Nothing was in the packet, but we did receive an email, or I should say, there was a phone call on Thursday that was received just regarding the general state of the dog site. There was some concerns regarding the large water tub that had gone missing, along with the water hose, and it's hard to use the water for the dogs, and that there's a small plastic pool that has been used in the past that is not there, and that there's some larger holes for digging, I suppose, with the dogs that they addressed in the phone call as well. They also indicated that no mulch or more mulch needed to be added. And they stated that it generally looked very rundown and unsafe, and that they wanted to see it addressed.
Okay, we can talk, we can take that up, either later in the meeting or with Parks later. Okay. People in attendance, Erin.
SBA received an email with a noise complaint that came through on Sunday night about someone who set up music in the park next to Village Hall. I forwarded the emails over to,
So not on the pavilion stage,
not on the pavilion stage.
go on
right?
in that grassy area?
Yep.
Okay,
It appears, they sent a photo, it appears to be the same person from last year who was setting up.
okay,
Yeah, so I forwarded that email,
okay, who has that email?
Nate and Ben.
Ben
So
both do?
this
Okay.
was, forwarded over to Carla, which was then forwarded over to the sheriff's department as well. So
Yeah, because we have had correspondence with him in the past. Okay, what time?
It was 7:15 is when the email said that it was
Okay.
happening.
Do you know how long, what the duration was? Did he mention or she mention what the duration was?
Mm-mm.
Okay,
Just before sunset, when my family left the beach, he was still there.
just before sunset, so
So that
that's
was like
9-ish?
8:45, 9
Yeah.
o'clock-ish.
Okay, and playing and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay.
I-
Aaron,
Don't believe he was plugged.
you don't believe what?
He was actually plugged into power. I did look at that. 'Cause I was down there
Yeah,
last night.
it didn't look like he was, because
He
when I
must have
walked
had it-
past, it looked like it was all completely set up running with the battery.
Yeah, the battery or generator, whatever he was using. Yeah, he's done that in the past.
Yeah, I didn't see a generator.
Yeah.
Well, that would make sense.
Word.
Yeah. Okay, well, for them to hear it, some kind of, yeah.
I mean, it was audible from the beachfront, and he was set up back, like almost towards the front of Village Hall
Okay,
away.
so we have a complete report or we have the person's name?
Yep,
and
it's
who we
in
can
the,
Contact.
yep, I forwarded the actual email. We have 2 emails from the same person, so I
Okay.
forwarded both.
Thank you. Also before, I don't want to forget, but I have the contents of the packet from the DCTZ meeting that Abby zoomed in on. And she was unaware she was on the committee, so until the last minute. And so I say, I got all that, because those packets were it's a lot. And so I'll give them to you to give to her, and then I can go through them with her at some point.
Oh.
Thanks. Okay, so we will move on from comments, correspondence to discussion of item 5A. Village Administration Building Request for Proposal, Evaluation of Proposals. So Ben will walk us through the rules of the road so that we all are playing by the same rules and we follow that process. and try to make this as orderly and, time efficient as possible. Yes,
I appreciate the structure that Ben has laid out. I think there's, as I'm seeing this. You know, as I did the analysis, one, I'm not comfortable with the rubric because as soon as we assign scores to something, that makes it somewhat binding. So I'm not comfortable with that. I understand for the evaluation. I appreciate how this is laid out. I think that, you know, how I looked at it was, it's easy enough to knock some of these out. I mean, like, how I looked at it is, okay, which are the obvious ones that aren't worth talking about? And which ones are worth more merit? And then also the other structure is to say this goes to the village board after today, that seemed overly aggressive. I think that I would like to see us come back, if you look at how they presented, it wasn't an apples to apples. You couldn't say, okay, well, this one had this one had this. I think there's probably another conversation to be had, either with the committee or with Ben and them, to get it apples to apples, then we can make a recommendation to vote. That's what my suggestion would be. I just don't think we've got enough information to say, these are the three we should pass along.
okay, well, Ben and I worked on the scorecard, and, I would prefer to do it this way. And actually got a lot of good feedback, including from the editor of the Pulse, because she said no one ever does it that way. So that's how we're gonna proceed. Okay, so Ben, take it away.
Well, hold on, let's have a little more
Anybody
discussion
else?
on
Okay.
that. I respect, the point that Nate just made. I spent a lot of time looking through this. And in my experience, when you're evaluating as many engineering firms as we are, the staff would have a template, something like you proposed here. And there would be a first pass that would not be binding because they can't approve the expenditure.
Mhm.
And they would take a first pass at identifying who they feel would be kind of in a ranked order, the most likely. I spent about 2 hours with general contractors, none of which were on this list this morning, getting evaluations of the engineering firms on this list and getting advice on what I should bring into this meeting today. And one of the things they said is that you're gonna have a matrix, you're gonna have a process, but you also have to look at who's really a good match for you. And the examples they pointed out is that some of these engineering firms are doing a lot of business with municipalities 20 times our size. A lot of these firms are doing business exclusively with industrial or non-municipal customers. So I think there probably is a quick pass we can make, and maybe it's using the template to rule some out. But I don't like, you know, kind of being rushed in to ask to give me my opinion and to send this right to the board either. I want to make sure that we do a good job on it. That, I mean,
Okay.
I'll support what you decide,
No,
but I
your
want to just.
point would be to go through this process, which means would be to use this process to do it, because the things that you called out. I called contractors, and I called I called out of 15 contractors, I think I called 10. Yeah, 10 references. And so the fact that many of them did projects that either don't resemble ours. So they were industrial or something, they were hospitals, they were dining. And or they weren't builds, they were remodels. And or there's a lot of that stuff, and I think anyway, I hope everybody saw that as well. So we could use this as a first pass. I have no problem taking a second pass after that. I think that's fine, absolutely fine, absolutely great. Yep. Jerry, do you have a problem with that?
I don't wanna have to go through and manually fill out each one of these papers when I've kind of got, you know, notes and.
What I meant,
documents.
so let me rephrase it. So the way I did mine was I did it and then I did my own spreadsheet and I ranked it. And then I ranked it a bunch of different ways, cost, and then just basically I scored them and then did my own ranking with my scores, right? Which is, I'm thinking what we would do. But so what I meant was if we take whatever that is, a quick run through of all 15 and find that we have consensus. Ben, you need to chime in here, but find we have consensus on 5, 6, 8, whatever, that are like, probably not. You know? And then circle back again and if required. And, you know, Mike, Nate, if you guys agree on this, and then if required, come back again. As far as going to the village board. This was something that. I did like, because we've never done it before, and by the way, this kind of a committee has never done this before. For a reason I can't figure out, but nonetheless, so if we did a quick pass on. At least for me, I can go down 5 or 6 right now and say probably not, and give you a one-word answer as to why not, and I kind of think maybe you guys could too, I don't know. But Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, so we're looking at it from the RFP process that was initially commissioned by the Parks Committee. You know, it lays out what the evaluation process would be, which would be evaluating the objective criteria and weighs them based on a 0 to 5 scale for each of the different ranking categories. And then,
And I think I remember objecting to that when we were talking about
Okay,
it.
but here we are.
Anyways.
Yeah. but just with the average being calculated aside by the member. So essentially, just when talking about it, this is the evaluation process that was initially identified as part of the RFP.
Yeah,
When talking about it, though, I will say it's not necessarily based off of the scores themselves. It's just something that provides something objective that we can evaluate different firms on. And that really the village can contract with any firm regardless of what was evaluated for any opinion based on the best interest of the village. So when talking about it, it also provides some documentation that's there which justifies the criteria for the selected firm.
I thought it was pretty fair because we're all using the same parameters, and then to be honest, I mean, one of the parameters is qualifications, that's really broad. You know, so everybody might think, have their own determinations for qualifications. You know, having read, I don't know, 3 different documents about RFPs and what qualifications are and all that stuff. So what if we did this? We could do a first pass, and they're listed alphabetically, and go alphabetically. And if you guys have already done, I did all my rankings. Did anybody do their rankings yet besides me?
I've got my top 5 and I've got 9 that I don't think are worth
Okay,
going.
but rankings, I mean, you gave them on average a 4, on average a 3, or whatever.
I would-
Anybody?
I ranked for a top 3
Okay,
and ones I would kind of at the bottom I wouldn't consider, and then
beautiful. Okay,
I have
Mike.
I have top 2.
perfect. Let's do the top 3. Do we all agree on, let's just start there. I want to make sure, this is a public meeting, and I want to make sure that, again, we're fair. And then if we have, if ironically, I don't think this is gonna happen, but if ironically, you know, 2 out of the top 3 we all agree on. But having,
we can narrow down a deeper discussion.
right, but having also, you know, given consideration to the others by reading through this,
Mhm.
which I can commit to 4 hours of work, because I've never done this before. I don't know construction. I had to call a lot of people. Anyway, so do we want to do that?
And did I hear you say earlier that you wanted a top set to the board or a single one to the board?
I didn't say, I said, I think
Okay.
it's a good idea to go to the board. But-
Yeah, I agree with that.
Multiples or a
Oh, I thought you
single?
were saying you didn't understand why.
No, I was saying, coming out of this meeting, I don't think it's ready to come out of this
Oh,
meeting.
this meeting, what you
This
meant
meeting
was,
is-
we need one more meeting.
I think it's a good idea for us to do
Okay,
that.
I
And I think,
misunderstood.
and I think
I
also some of this is not saying. One of the things that I thought is, okay, well, do we do an interview process as a committee? And I think we shouldn't do that because that just takes too long. I think we come back and we say,
This
okay,
is,
Ben.
this is kind of the interview process, but,
I mean, like, we literally would talk to the, I don't,
no, I know what you mean.
so
I
I,
have a few clarifying questions for each of our top ones.
yeah, and I think that's where we empower Ben to do that and say, okay, Ben, this is what we want. Let's make sure we get an apples to apples comparison when we have the final. Well,
Right, you good with that?
I am.
Just
Okay.
wanted to make a note of, well, I know you said it would take too long, but as part of this process, if that was something that the committee was interested in, as part of the RFP, it specifically reserves the right that the firms could be required to provide some presentations regarding their work.
well, we can figure that out after we're done here. The other thing that I wanted to say before we start this process, and I've been a little bit stepping around this a little bit easy, and I think that I just need to take it head on at this point,
Sure.
is what we did at the Parks Building, I don't think we did a great job. we need to do a better job, but we need to learn what mistakes we made from the parks building on that. And that's how I look through the prism on this. I'm not saying it was terrible, but they're the key things that I think that we need to do better is construction administration. I think that was a weak point for us.
So you're not talking about choosing the actual contractor, you're talking about the process of building.
I'm talking about, but that is part of choosing the contractor because they're talking about construction administration in here, and I think that's important that we have.
Okay, but you mean prior, okay.
Yes, the
That's-
prior
I just
one.
wanted to clarify, okay, got you.
Then there also wasn't a consideration of the long-term operational costs, and I know we didn't put that in the
Six
RFP.
percent, yeah.
People didn't touch that.
Mhm.
The IT infrastructure was not planned on it, that was an afterthought, and we can't do that on this building. And I also don't think that the architect to construction firm communication was very good. I think that there was some issues there, so I think that these are the things I think we need to be
This
cognizant.
is all regarding the parks building,
Yes,
okay,
and you learn from your past mistakes.
okay.
Yeah, and that is one of the things I think we really have to think about. Is we're selecting an engineering firm. One of them that we're gonna talk about probably is Bolt, who typically does design, engineering and builds. They very seldom separate, so some folks were surprised to see them quoting on this piece.
I was really surprised. Yeah,
So now there's also a thought that that can be more efficient. And maybe even lower cost. That being said. I think the point Nate made was a big problem. And in talking to. When living through, I'll just say, living through this process, it was clear. And Ben, this was before your time, but it was clear we did not have good communication between. Our administrator, the engineer, and the general contractor. There was just too many barriers that existed between the three, and there wasn't enough leverage between those three to optimize the build and to make sure we minimize mistakes. And I think that's a strong message that we've heard. So not easy thing to do, right? We're picking an engineering firm here first, then we gotta pick a general contractor. All I'm suggesting is we gotta think about when we're picking both, how do we make sure they're capable of collaborating in a way that's to the benefit of the citizens of Sister Bay.
Well, this is me being stupid because I've never done this before. So when you're picking an engineering firm, I'm assuming that they have their usual suspects, sorry, bad word. They have people they like to work with, right? And they would be suggesting or we put out an RFP for construction.
So this,
If they're not all
RFP.
wound into one, right?
I'll let
Sorry,
Ben
yeah.
speak, but
so this RFP is for design through bidding services, so
Understand.
essentially they would assist.
They manage the bidding.
Preparing the bidding,
Okay.
in terms of when you wanna call it the usual suspects. When working on a municipal level, you're typically selecting the lowest responsible bidder. So there isn't a lot of control necessarily about who bids. They will submit it and work closely and typically have a good working relationship about answering any questions with the contractors that they've worked with frequently.
Yep,
But it really is up to, the lowest cost.
okay, and we, that's us, but it would seem to me though that. And I don't know if that always happens, if it's like, yeah, they usually work together, I really.
I think what we, and Ben help me here, right? I think what we can control are a couple of things. One, and I'm maybe it's in here, but I just didn't see which bullet point it is. But we need to kind of seek out an engineering design firm that is gonna go over and above the call of duty to communicate with our GC. I don't think we had that in the past. I see the weekly meetings, we had weekly meeting schedules, we had all of that punch list stuff. But I think in the decision-making process, we need to exercise that as best we can to make sure they're gonna really coordinate with the GC.
Mhm.
I think, go ahead.
So just some of the specific proposals that were called out specifically had construction management outlined. That wasn't necessarily a requirement of the RFP, but they did provide that they do provide those services, which would be evaluated at that time. And that's something to consider, that they provide those services and also the quality of those services, potentially based on the top three, reaching out to references and seeing how that went as part of the construction management process.
Okay, I'll leave it at that, but I think that part we can control in this decision-making process to ensure. Again, I'll say it again, that we exercise as best we can an inquiry, a requirement that the engineering and design firm is gonna over communicate with the general contractor and with the village administration staff so that everybody knows what's going on. And that when issues arise, which they will, that they are escalated and resolved quickly and in the most practical way for the village.
Okay, who wants to go first with the top three? Or if you only have two, that's fine.
Do you want to go through them? I mean, you'd mentioned that we go through them alphabetically. I'm fine going through them alphabetically quickly, or you just want to do the top.
I thought it would, well, you guys tell me, maybe more expedient to do the top three and see if we have some overlap. Ben, opinions?
Well, like I said, there was this specific process that was laid out. I would encourage just the evaluation of seeing, at least identifying each firm.
Okay,
And then after that, if there is a top three, identifying it,
Okay.
having a ranking, and then identifying the next steps of whether or not it's gonna go to the board, or if it's an additional process of evaluation.
all right, so we start with Abacus. We're going alphabetically?
Yeah, I'm sorry, can I have 1 minute? I'm having a little trouble opening up the
Sure,
the deck. I mean, you can start, but just please know that I'll need a minute.
it's okay.
Yes, Abacus Architects would be the first firm.
Okay,
I can
yeah,
start.
you go ahead, shoot.
The thing that jumped out at me
Mm-hmm.
is they're percentage based. And I don't like that. That is a huge red flag to me. I don't want to have people incentivized to have the project cost go up because they get paid more money. So that may be a little bit unfair, but
What if you did it with a cap?
I
I mean, is that
still-
done? I know they're the only ones that did percentage, and I, again, am a real novice. And I thought it was weird, but I don't,
It just seems like their incentive is misaligned with what the village wants.
okay,
So
The
that's my
bigger the cost of the project, the more it's gonna
Mhm.
cost us,
Okay.
and so they have zero incentive.
Yeah.
To
Okay.
keep costs down. For me, this was a reject. Because when I looked at the projects, what they highlighted, what was important to them, it wasn't the kind of facilities we're looking at.
with me, I'm sorry, are you done? They did a lot of remodels. And a remodel isn't to build. And, it just was, and again, the percentages threw me off, just because, again, this is me not being very experienced. And knowledge of state and federal, yeah, I mean, of course, but, otherwise, they're privately held. I don't know if that makes a difference either way. They did not visit the site. We had a couple that did. But the information was just fairly general, so they would not be in my, they would not be in my top five. Mike,
I don't have much to add other than that, their municipal projects listed were all from municipalities. Shouldn't say all, but 90% of them were from municipalities 5 to 10 times our size.
I like Sheboygan, the visitor center looked nice, but it's big.
But I'm not gonna repeat what you guys have already said.
Okay, on to. ADCI. Ben, you're gonna do this now.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So yeah, ADCI proposal, any questions or fallouts that are a part of this proposal?
I didn't understand the little Grafe snippet embedded in it,
Ray snippet.
Grafe.
GREF, it's one of they
Oh,
outsource.
yes, yeah, so that is another engineering, well, they do have an office out of Green Bay. But yeah, they outsource some of the different engineering.
Okay, so they were saying they worked with Grafe, because it felt like there was a little Grafe proposal in
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, so essentially, if they can't perform the full
Then,
spectrum
okay,
of
got it.
engineering services, because when we're talking about facility engineering design, it's not typically under one banner, it's under a few different banners, so they would have that as a partner for their team.
I liked them. They would be in my top five. They mentioned the adjacent property, and others did too, but the library as well as residential, is important. They came to see the site. I like their use of stone and glass. They gave a very detailed schedule, some did, some didn't, I'm not sure really how important that is. And they do have an interior designer, interior design is important for me, to have an interior designer. Because I think the people that work in that office, that it is incredibly important, because it's not just what color are the walls. But it's the ergonomics, it's light, it's a lot of that stuff and the materials you use, and I think that's important.
Yeah, they were in my top three as well. I kind of liked some of the things that they'd worked with in their experience. Their fees seemed in line,
Yeah.
nothing exorbitant, but it felt like they would understand our needs and be able to make a design that was aligned with that.
And I just wanted to make a note that the representative who was part of this firm was very communicative, and they went along with the process that was there, and asked a lot of questions throughout the Q&A portion of the project. And they also, I believe, were also considered for runner-up within the past selection of a firm for a village project. I'm not quite sure if it was the Parks building or if it was the other administration building, but they were considered according to them.
Okay. Mike?
I was a little indifferent, but I would support this if the committee did. My concerns, there were just two. One, Jerry mentioned that they subcontract. I don't know how or when they do that, and that increases complexity. And
For
could
your
increase,
communication risk you were talking
and
about.
that was the other 2 points I wanted to make.
So Grafe being who they sub to,
So it looks
Okay.
like it's mostly with MEP work.
Okay,
it's mostly with what? Oh,
Uh,
MEP, yeah, I looked
mechanical
up that
engineering,
definition.
yeah.
Page,
yeah, I
What?
think
an acronym page.
Oh, your acronym, good, can I
Oh,
get that?
nice.
Great, I'll take that.
if we did use them, though, I think this one I would exercise more on how do we ensure that any subcontracting they do falls under their umbrella in terms of accountability, and maybe even put some penalties if there's errors or omissions between those two.
Well, they accept full responsibility for the work of the subcontractor.
I hear you, but we had, our previous engineering firm accepted full responsibility too, and we had some gaps in the project, so. I hear you.
Maybe I think what you're also saying is get ahead of it and like, let's not have gaps.
Yeah.
But that's of course,
It's
Nobody
just,
wants
if we
gaps.
would choose them, that's something we'll have to exercise.
okay. Nate?
Seemed like they had a lot of hospitality stuff in there. I don't know that that's ideal for this. At the same point, we're hospitality-based area, so that's not necessarily.
There's some small village halls in there too, there's some smaller village stuff. So I remember some of the pictures were like, yeah, that kind of looks like what I envisioned the replacement for this space looking like.
Yeah, there's the Belgium, Grafton, Holiday Harbor, but I mean, there was a lot of stuff that was more hospitality based. Like I say, I'm not sure that that's precludes them, but they weren't one of my top fives. I don't have an issue with them. There was also no red flags for me, so.
Okay.
All right, any other questions at all before we move on? All right, then the third firm here is for Berner Schober. Any questions, call outs?
They did call out the library in the residential area. They do have a designer. They do 3D modeling, which I assume we pay for. They were one of the first, I think maybe it's just because it was alphabetical, that mentioned sustainability goals. I was it's a big rebate firm. So they're local. It was sort of middle of the road for me. It didn't make my top five, and not because I didn't like them,
I think that and combined with them, the kind being middle of the road, but not middle of the road on pricing.
Yeah, they were more
Yeah, they're-
expensive.
So I
Mhm.
I don't have a, wow, I really don't want them, but it's like, do we wanna pay that much for something that we think is?
Yeah, they didn't make my top or bottom for
Yeah.
that reason.
Very similar opinion, that a lot of big buildings, a lot of big communities.
Okay. Birchbach.
Perfect, I'm just taking notes and notes here. So next up here is Birchbach and Associates, for their proposal. Any questions, concerns, callouts?
This one, their presentation didn't blow me away, but I got very good feedback on them.
From
And
Ephraim? Or Ephraim people?
no,
Hmm.
from two general contractors,
Okay.
both Sturgeon Bay, who said for a village size of of Sister Bay, they have a good repertoire of buildings and smaller municipal buildings that they built. And they are excellent with their communications between village staff and general contractors.
And this is the one that did something in Ephraim recently, right?
They did their public works building. And they showed a photograph of it. There's a loft and. So,
They're kind of a smaller company and Alan is a working leader of the business.
yeah. Right, this may not, I don't know if you've got any kind of information. Eric, do you know the guys in Ephraim? Do they like the building?
I haven't
Yeah.
talked to them about it, no.
Okay,
I actually have them as number 4 for me,
okay,
and the one call that I had is they're a small firm. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, it also means being a small firm, we'd be
Higher
really
on the
important to them.
priority list.
Yeah,
okay, they don't include interior design, landscape design, or furniture. A lot of people didn't include furniture. So I guess that means that we would,
Was that in the RFQ?
No.
Okay,
and that's where I say like, we should get some clarification on this, so we're comparing apples to apples on there. Just if we shouldn't, because somebody didn't include it, they didn't ask for it.
well, but they specifically said, some people didn't say it at all. But they specifically said in their proposal, not included is interior design, landscape design, and furniture. They were very specific.
And one of the things I'd actually ask for, if we come back to this, is to have everybody have their call out exclusions.
Okay. Sure. It doesn't mean, like, I don't know, like, you don't need into. No offense, please, but they, maybe you don't do a big design firm, interior design firm for like a Parks building or something like that, but. I'm gonna fight for, for this in terms of. The design.
well,
So-
I don't have a problem with making sure the building looks nice on the inside, but I am. Usually that's a separate quote. It's
Well,
not,
it's included in the one for a couple we've already talked about, and they have, design folks on their staff.
Okay.
That look like one had 15 years experience at one place, another had 20. The one that did basically the Dells, pretty much all of the Dells, the one based in Delton. They have I think two designers, and they should, for what they're doing. But anyway. Okay, so we should make just call outs on maybe if someone doesn't include landscape design or furniture, we shouldn't assume that they don't offer it. Not furniture design.
I don't think it is, I don't think that's part of our decision criteria, is it?
Providing the services, so I mean, in terms of calling it out, it hasn't been called out, but I mean, it's one of those things where it depends on what we're talking about in terms of landscaping, if that's part of the scope of the project, a significant portion of the project, or if it's just doing restoration work.
Yeah,
I think we kind of use it as a fee comparison, because I'm sure that they could add it in, then their costs would go up, because they were one of the
yeah,
least expensive, because maybe they didn't
Yeah.
include as much.
I mean, I kind of would like to make apples to apples decisions. And we can get down to 3 and we can go back with those specific questions.
Sure.
What do you offer for design? interior design, is that cost included?
Mhm.
And then the
landscape.
landscaping too. I didn't think either one of those were in our scope of work, Ben. But they were?
I mean, not, it depends what you mean in terms of the landscaping work, because it's restoration of the site and having everything essentially be put together in terms of landscaping, yes, but if we're talking about, kind of an aesthetic landscaping, no.
Okay,
How do you restore the site after you tear a building down?
it's rough finish, rough grading.
No, I mean like plants,
Well, look at
grass.
Bailey's Harbor. That's a restoration that they just did, which was largely sod.
All they did was put the lawn in.
Yeah, but I mean.
That's exactly what that
You
would
have to,
include.
you have
Yeah.
to scope that out. You gotta be we'll have
If
to
you
be
want more than
specific
that.
in the end.
Yeah, and then also, if they don't have an interior designer who picks flooring,
Well, I
lighting,
think that would be where we
window
talk to them and
treatments,
say,
color.
we want you to work with an interior designer to
Okay,
do that kind of stuff.
so then they would need to, if they don't have it, they need to add it into the price.
Yeah, or they would also potentially sub it out if that's something that we'd.
Right, but we still have to pay for it.
Correct, yep.
I would call that we itemize out those other things that weren't part of the RFP, so that we're making that decision, so we can do that apples to apples, and if we are gonna.
Great. Yep. And like I said, most of them called out, not most, that's not fair. 5 or 6 specifically said they're not gonna, do furniture isn't in there, of course it isn't, but also, so it does furniture, I assume means desks, it means tables, it means a lot of stuff.
Essentially, if you're talking about it, yes, it means all of that, and then they typically would include some things for, like telecommunications, as well.
Yeah, and also millwork maybe, I don't know. So, we need to think about that.
It typically is something where it's not always included as part of the project, and it's something that's done separately, but with that being said,
Okay.
it's kind of a luxury item, what I'll call
That we have to pay somebody else to do, we do it ourselves,
it. Yes.
when we are not capable of doing it ourselves, so. I mean,
Yeah, so bottom line for this one, for me, they were higher up my list because I thought
gotcha,
they're a little smaller, Worth a little smaller. They've done projects in Door County, they
Okay.
know the area, I like them.
Which one are you saying?
we're still on Birchbach,
Okay, I wanted to know if we were still in the
so
same.
Mike,
list.
you like Birchbach, they're high on your list?
I did, and the other thing I kind of liked is I like how they took a crack at the layout drawing
The AI one,
on page 106.
yeah. Were they the ones that said, that told us it was AI that did it, I don't remember,
They talked about how they're trying to use AI
yeah.
to augment their.
Is that the one that had like a whole lot of 200 square foot offices? I think it was,
I mean, yes, it did have quite a few.
they had like 20, I think. Anyway, okay, so. Everybody, we all liked, it wasn't in my top 5, but we could certainly go back for sure, so. Nate liked it because it was important, Mike liked it, and then, it was higher up for Jerry, okay?
Perfect. All right, so then the next one here is for Bolt Company. Anything either on the summary or the specific proposal themselves about this company, as Mike noted, they do include other services as well. We're not going out for construction services, but it's just a consideration that they do provide quite a bit of those services.
One comment I heard about Bolt is that a lot of municipalities are starting to move toward their model. Where the same firm, they have to compete competitively for engineering and design and construction. But companies that can do both are winning a lot of projects right now. Because it's a little less bureaucracy in terms of communication. And there's less finger pointing by one to the other if they end up with both. But if both would win it, they'd still have to compete for the GC work. But we might find that they're gonna be in the best position to win it because they design work. And if they're smart, they're gonna design some advantage in to their design, so they have the best chance of winning it, which. If that's the best decision for our community, I'm fine with that, I'm just That was feedback I received.
Nate, what does it mean? It says does not include IT, AV, or security.
They're not doing any low voltage work in there. We're not gonna, that's separate from there, which a number of them didn't include IT. in.
Okay,
And some of them did.
so does that need to be on our? So we're apples to
I
apples?
think to Nate's point, and I'll go back to it on the Parks building. When it was approved to go forward with McMahon on it, I think there was a lot of assumptions, by myself at least, that they were handling some of that stuff that we weren't necessarily experts in. And I think we found out after the fact that if you don't be really particular about things, then it's not gonna get done.
Okay,
Which is why, as much as I might say, I want to see it done slightly differently, this process is far more robust, I believe, than what
Yeah,
happened
I
at
do
the Parks
too.
building, or the
Believe
Parks
it.
building previously, so it's,
That is-
this is a good thing.
good.
Good job.
They did the ridges and I tried to call Katie Kraus. And the Monday after 4th, maybe not the best time, but they also did the YMCA. So we can certainly reach out to them. And the YMCA was, I don't know, Sally, are you still on? Sal? You might not be, because she was on a committee, but I don't know if she was on this one. But I just wondered if this was, because they did that big addition at the Y. But the ridges, I mean, it's beautiful. They did, but I want to ask Katie about it. The other thing I thought was interesting, did anybody figure, dollars per square foot? Some of them kind of talked about it and some of them did it, so it was anywhere between 350 and 400 a square foot, but again, if we're not apples to apples, then it doesn't really mean anything, does it?
Well, I would say just the two major factors when we're talking about costs is whether or not they use a percentage cost or whether or not they're doing lump sum. Is the biggest thing, or if we're having reimbursables, things like that.
True, okay. Sal, you there?
Yes, did you have a question?
About the YMCA and the work that Bolt did for the YMCA, their contact for us, to get a hold of is Sherry Danton.
Dan Twine? Mm-hmm.
Okay, so-
Yeah, they've done great work for us. We've gone back to Bolt a number of times.
Did they do most recently, was that an addition or was that the big addition you did?
They did, let's see, it was a different builder when we first built Northern Door. The big addition in Sturgeon Bay, I believe, was Bolt. Yeah,
It was Sturgeon Bay, okay.
yeah, yep. And I
And we-
think we're
And in that
gonna
case,
use
was-
them again in Northern Door.
In that case, was it engineering and architecture and construction, or just construction, or?
We normally, I think we've done it. I don't know the answer to that question. I know they have their own engineering department. How did they spec it for you?
Well, right now, they're only bidding on engineering. We are not, it will be a separate bid from this for the general contractor.
Oh, okay. So this is just, you're just looking at the
Engineering
RFP for engineering. Okay.
But Sherry would know that, so.
Yeah, sure. They've done it. They've done our engineering as well. I know that.
Yeah, if you can just text it to them.
Right,
So with Bolt, this being architecture and engineering, design work, I think that what the contract we come up with needs to make sure that that construction is an arm's length transaction, that it's sealed bidding and all that. I don't think that likely means that they're gonna be they're gonna be more competitive on the construction bid, but I do think we need to make sure that we're not de facto making the decision, okay, we're picking Bolt, so Bolt gets everything all the way through. It very well could work out that way, but I think that some of the language in the contract is gonna be very important if we choose them.
what did we think of their bid? 264, including the 45,000?
It was quite expensive, I thought. And to me, and
They were the
maybe
highest, weren't they?
one of the highest.
Hold on, I can tell you.
And to me, in my mind, I think of Bolt as like an excellent construction company. And maybe they happen to do this piece.
Werner Schober was 263.
The other thing is they did do the Tower Lakes Village Hall last year, which was 5,000 square feet. Very similar to what we're looking at. at least in terms of square footage and budget.
Okay. So great, a little high, I mean, they're certainly capable.
I had it as in my top three.
Okay.
Are some of your companies just doing architectural then and they don't do construction? Is that what you're saying?
Most,
Most of them are just architectural.
But that's what the RFP was, so.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yeah.
and for municipalities, it's pretty much that way, right?
That's what I was just gonna say, is that the typical process, just because we're utilizing dollars and going for procurement, at least the theory goes that people sharpen their pencils a little bit more, putting in the proposals, but.
And a quick side clarification. The reason that we had a problem with the same firm doing the engineering and the construction on the trail, on the 57 trail, was specifically because of stipulations of the grant dollars, right?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
For funding.
Normally, there's not that
Mhm.
stipulation that they can't be the same.
Yes, if
That's
this
a good
project
point.
had
I thought
funding
about that.
dollars, if that process that Holt would utilize or any other larger firm would not be allowable.
Okay, got it.
Anything else on Bolt at all? All right, then on to the Cedar Corporation proposal. Any call outs, questions? Concerns?
Unless,
Um,
I think their lump sum would need to be teased apart a little bit to ensure it contains all the things. As I recall, it didn't have like a super detailed breakdown of what was in that lump sum. It just says includes then the high level things. Unless I scroll too fast.
I thought the bid was attractive. I think a lot of what they do, while I'm sure sound and it just looked pretty generic to me. So Wyomega or Osaki. That was me, just my opinion. No mention of adjacent buildings to the site where we're building. So residence or library. And I do think that's really important to know that. And that just takes a Google or a search. But again, I thought that the cost was attractive, but
I don't know these guys. I didn't get any feedback on them. I'm kind of indifferent.
One thing I did like is they did secure a USDA grant and
Yeah, I think they had grant writing as one of their things, which I don't think almost anybody else mentioned that as one of their arms. So maybe they have ideas.
Yeah.
okay.
But I think that we also, I mean, Ben, you've mentioned a few different grant options we'd have for this building.
Correct, I mean, that's also kind of why we're going through the evaluation process as well, is that in case we didn't end up moving forward with any grants, that's typically a requirement for the evaluation process. If we did end up trying to get reimbursed for architecture and engineering. So yeah, so trying to build it so that we could. But typically it starts off with having the design plans, and those are typically required for submitting a grant application. But I am more familiar with these folks as well.
Sounds like we're kind of middle of the road, indifferent, sort of like I
Yeah,
said.
I wouldn't object to them, I wouldn't push for them.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So this would be for Dimension 4 Madison Design Group.
I don't think this should be a PEMB.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
pre-engineered
You don't.
metal building.
Glossary of acronyms there. That's not fair.
So I made my own because
Did you think about sharing with your fellow committee members?
So,
no, I didn't.
No, I didn't.
I figured Mike knew them all.
So much.
No.
What is a PEMB?
it's just essentially it'd be like a, you know, prefabricated type of building
Oh.
that they had pre-engineered, you know.
Could have been fine for parts, but I'm not sure
Yeah.
here.
They did the Eagle Harbor Inn, but I can't remember what they did for it. Do you guys remember? Was it, which is beautiful. And I can call Ned Nederson, I don't. They did the Deerfield Village Hall, which is Deerfield again, a huge, large suburb. But a small building, relatively small building.
So on page 205 in the deck, what I noticed here is what Jerry pointed out earlier. And they have their list of subcontractors that they use for strategic structural design, civil engineering,
Mhm.
and mechanicals. So again, not that this can't work, and yes, the dimensions has to be held accountable. But if in our project, you might have Dimension and 3 of their subcontractors doing design work. And that all has to come together. Now, maybe others are doing it too, and they didn't mention it. But that seems like a lot of moving parts to me.
A lot of gaps,
Mhm.
places where
Potential
things
gaps,
can
yeah.
fall.
Gary?
They were kind of on the lower end of my list. For some of the reasons we just talked about.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. Okay.
Anything else? To mention 4.
I don't like them. I'll just say that, like, I don't like their proposal, they could be perfectly fine people, but that proposal I did not like.
Because of the acronym, I can't remember.
The metal building,
Yeah, I would agree. I don't. Against code anyway,
All right,
potentially,
potential.
I mean, just to show that they don't understand the character of the village, if that came back.
Okay, that's a better way. Okay.
so we can move on to Gree's architectural group proposal.
They didn't have a lot of, or any really, they didn't show us experience with village halls. They worked with Bergstrom and credit unions. But village halls meaning, well, I guess a credit union, so public facing and some of our other needs.
I wouldn't necessarily say that they're in the municipal, you know, sphere of
Okay.
engineering.
Okay,
Yeah, to me, they were the contrast with the earlier firm we were talking about, that's small but has experience and could
Yeah.
work with us. These
Well-
seem more small and don't have the experience and aren't really very local.
They're
On
in need
page
already.
239, just to give, I think you're right, Jerry, that they do have municipal experience even here in Door County, but it's more like the Parks Building. Door County Museum and Archives Building, Door County Highway Department, Bryan and Commodity Storage, Community Town Center Park Community Building, Memorial Building, Door County Sheriff Storage Building. So they've done business with municipalities, but
But it's more like, I'll call it industrial business for lack of a
yeah,
better term.
I would agree. Now, I have to say, these guys also got high marks from general contractors for their thoroughness and for their communications. One contractor told me, again, knowing Sister Bay, that we might find that they are a good collaborative partner, but they are also smaller too, I think.
13 associates, I think.
Yeah,
Not
that's pretty small.
It looks like, my notes say Larson Engineering and,
They're partners.
what it says.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. 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 I don't know
So I wasn't a no on these guys, a little indifferent, I'd have to say.
Okay.
A lot of these names did pop up and I had not heard of this firm before.
Okay.
Anything else? Gray's architecture. All right, hearing none, we can move on to integrity engineering and design.
They didn't provide any photos, interior photos. Their bid is. It has a lot of exclusions, I guess that's why it's low.
6 visits.
Yeah.
That's. I'd rather have nothing in there than that.
Nate, we are just a little.
Is that, I mean, we sort of had that with McMahon too, is that a thing? I mean, it seems like if you're gonna be the engineering design firm, you should be making the commitment to get the job done. To meet or exceed the customer's expectations, and there should not be any limitation on how often you're meeting
Actually go there.
at the job site.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
get that.
Well,
I'm not
it's
sure if
just
they were
baked
asked.
into what they do for the proposals.
For the
Proposals.
costs.
Maybe they weren't.
They're saying that's that's their assumption, and if they have to show up 10 times, the cost goes up. maybe.
There's one in here that actually wants to come more. I don't remember who that was, sorry.
Well, if we were just looking at dollars and cents, that might be something we gloss over. We'd say, okay, well, they're the lowest price, let's go for the lowest.
That's the
For
one I
some
wouldn't-
municipalities.
That's the one I wouldn't pick.
I get that, but I'm just saying like, maybe
Yeah.
that's why they're submitting this, is saying, okay, well, how many times is being the lowest one gonna win?
Yeah,
For some municipalities, that is the most important thing.
Jerry, was this anywhere in your top 5?
No,
Mike?
no,
Nate, is there an acronym you'd like to share with us for this one?
Mm, let me look, so they used IT and AV in there, and that's information technology and audio visual.
Oh, thank you so. how
You're
many-
welcome.
Wait, how many are on that list?
On my acronym list,
Yeah. Oh, you don't have it numbered? Thanks, that's not like you. We can move on.
22, including the YMCA, so I went for all.
Okay.
All right, then we can move on to Martin Riley Incorporated proposal. Comments, questions, concerns?
I thought the timeline was a little vague. They did do a rendering.
I have to say what caught my attention was page 273, where they showed kind of a neat looking brick building. And the way they hid the solar panels in the back of it,
What page, sorry?
273.
Hmm,
Oh, yeah. Was that a Kakana? Okay.
Now that cost of that building though, if I'm reading this right, was almost $10 million in 2023. So maybe that isn't such a good example. If that's the same building, I'm not sure. No, excuse me, that's a $2.8 million building. I read the wrong one. That building is 2.8 million. I did like how some of these folks put the project construction cost in here.
Mm-hmm.
And most of them, if they're municipal buildings, we can get their costs and we'd have to adjust for inflation, but
Well, they more than likely put it in as a comparable to what was budgeted within our CIP.
yeah.
I don't know, they didn't wow me, but. Anybody,
I was indifferent, but again, I don't know them. I didn't have any feedback on them.
they're in Oshkosh, they have 43 associates, our manager, who I'm assuming is in Oshkosh. The one thing about them was, I thought, this is just an aesthetic thing, I thought their presentation was hard to read. And maybe it's just what I'm talking about the text, the font.
Hmm.
I don't, maybe it was just my Mac that was looking at it weird, I don't know.
They were not on my short list.
Yeah, mine either.
Okay.
Anything else on Merton Riley at all? All right, up next is McMahon Associates proposal.
I don't, we should go with them again.
So they were only on the upper middle part of my list because we've worked with them and they're the devil we know where things can go wrong. I didn't put them at the top, but we know the mistakes that were made and they were very communicative throughout. And I kind of view it more as the issue. The issues were on both sides, but the issue was more with us not asking for exactly what we needed. And maybe they should have been like, hey, why aren't you thinking about these things? But. So they were in my top 5, but on the bottom.
I understand what you're saying is, it depends on how they approach it. They could say, okay, yeah, mistakes were made, let's do this better this time. If that's their approach, okay,
And we know what mistakes we made too.
yes, and yeah, you're right, to be fair to them, it's not like, oh, McMahon missed all this, like, no, we missed it. It would have been nice if they helped us figure out we missed it, but that's ultimately,
They did what we asked.
yes.
Well, from a fee perspective, they're at 173.6 and they estimate reimbursables at 3, so they're 176.6. And then they would want another 22,000 or so for environmental site assessment. I don't know if we need that, renderings, but audio visual design. So Nate, you're the AV design piece would be for, the board room.
Well, it could be for more than that, I mean, I think you're probably gonna have a lot of, I would think we'd wanna do digital signage in there and all that, and some of that is just pre-wiring when you've got it open.
Okay, so
Well, if
That
we get
would-
towards digital archiving and things like that,
Well,
making
that's
sure
true.
that the server rooms appropriately.
Okay, well, that's actually, that's already on the list, but that would be another 15,000.
Well, I think this is another one of those apples to apples, so we need to make sure that all
Sure.
of them are
Okay,
including that.
okay, they weren't on my top list.
And the only thing I'll add is, I like how Jerry put it, the devil you know. There is part of me that says they probably learned some things and might do a little better, but I think we've leaned on them a little bit too much, and they may have gotten a little too comfortable with us as a municipality, and I think we are better off having an environment where engineering firms are competing for our business.
I do not disagree. Okay,
Anything else on McMahon at all? All right, we can move on from that proposal. Right, so we got MN Architects LLC, otherwise referred to as MNA. Questions, comments, concerns?
well, most of what they did was, there was courthouses, public safety and educational. Not really what we're doing. The presentation was long, but it was very repetitive. And, a lot of the text was mentioning a repeat of what they said on previous pages, but, I don't know, I just don't get a good feel. I don't remember how large they were. I can look.
I didn't like they didn't include CAN, I think that's something that's important.
Didn't include what, I'm sorry.
Construction administration.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is something that. we want.
Yeah, we need them to do. Sarah, I'll give you my copy of acronyms when we're done. Just don't share it with Louise.
Could you please forward that to all committee members? So Mike, anything?
I don't know them. I had no feedback on them. I had a hard time. I don't feel comfortable making a recommendation for or against them.
Okay.
Just before we go to the next one, a quick question. Does anyone know for the Gibraltar school system? C.G. Schmidt is building it. Were they also the engineering firm or did they use a different engineering firm?
In my experience with CG Schmidt, they're very much like Bolt.
Yeah,
They do.
both.
Bolt is doing the facility across the street.
Right?
Yeah.
Is there some reason that did C.G. Schmidt, was this too small of a project for them?
It
I'm
might
just
have been, I think they might have been on the submitted list, but.
They didn't respond.
Yeah, some don't respond, but, yeah, I don't know. It might not
Okay,
have been in
I-
there. It might have
thought
been much of
maybe
a
we-
backlog as well.
Yeah, but
So anything else on this proposal? All right. Hearing none, then we can move on to Somerville here. Somerville Incorporated proposal. And let me get to the page number here. So the header page is going to be starting on 369. Any questions, concerns, comments on this proposal?
Ben, do you know these guys at all from?
I do know them a little bit, but I believe they were more. At least I believe they had a little bit more work within the Madison area, but
Looks like they got, I mean, they're based in Green Bay, they did a lot in Green Bay, they did Lambeau.
Yeah, I mean, fancy proposal.
Yeah.
Excellent profiles, some neat looking buildings.
They also don't.
I don't see any examples in our budget.
Yeah, everything was kind of way different than what we need.
Yeah.
Stevens Point New City Hall was the one that was closed, and also they have a community center in Denmark. That was close, but, and then the remodel of Sturgeon Bay's Government Center.
So they did the Denmark?
It's called One Denmark Community Center. And it's big, it's a community center though, you know, multi-function. And the Sturgeon Bay government remodel they did, and I've been in there. And I've been in their chambers. That's fine, but it wasn't a build, it was remodel.
I had them as my number 3.
I mean, they're more than capable, they are in my top 3, yeah. But where are they, 205?
Again, I think,
Did I miss some projects that they did that were pretty similar to ours? That's the only reason I didn't have them above kind of the middle of the road, is I didn't see a lot of stuff they did that was similar.
No, I mean, admittedly, those are bigger. It just seemed like they could scale down a little bit on that. I mean, it's not like they were private industry coming to there, but
they have on Jerry on page 419, they have a $2 million building. That looks a little like our footprint, but it's got overhead garage doors on the back side. But I think that is a commercial building, and then there's pictures of it on the inside.
Of the America Service Line building.
Yes. And then the Payne and Dolan, that's a renovation though, so they're really hard to compare. And then they did the new municipal center in Sturgeon Bay, $5.5 million. Big building. So I don't know, I mean, yeah, they're a little bigger, but they're in the county.
Yeah, that was my only
Yeah.
negative, otherwise I'm not opposed to them. Ben, is our feedback narrowing in?
Well, it's in my top
I got
three
some
and it's Nate's
indicated-
top three.
Yeah,
I
But
only had a top two, so I could always make.
Jerry, you didn't have them in there, right?
No, but I didn't have, my only negative was questioning their relevant experience.
Yeah, that would be mine. I mean, the proposal looks good. It's very professional.
Yeah, they're capable.
And their scope of services is very wide.
And their fees weren't outrageous.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm open.
Yeah, I think they're a consideration then.
They're employee owned. I do like that.
I like that too.
They did mention, sustainability. They don't charge mileage. They have a picture of Sister Bay, which I'm pretty sure he had Kayla Larson take. So I look, cause it's pretty much the same. I'm looking for new buildings to see if like they did it with a drone. But
Well, I've been in this Pewaukee City Hall building on 452. It's a very nice building, big though.
okay,
And I lived in Big Bend at one time. Way before that building was built.
all right, well, then we can move on to Thrive Architects proposal. Comments, concerns, questions on these guys?
I like everything about it except for the foresight visits.
Yeah, that's not good. And Nate, I didn't think they were in the county at all. Did they show any examples in the county?
Did not have that on my notes, so I'm gonna say no. The other thing that, I should say, the other thing that struck me is cost effectiveness, because they do include a lot of things that are exclusions on others.
mhm.
I'm not saying we should look for the cheapest bid, but I think that we should consider, that gave a bit of merit to me because they seem like they're not cheap, but they're cost effective.
Nate, I think the one thing that you suggested in the beginning that's really jumping out at me now. That we start talking about this as a group. We have to do an apples to apples comparison. Of these bids to make sure we
Yeah.
know what these categories include and don't include.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, their fee breakdown. Is 4 buckets, but I don't know. What's under the 4 buckets,
And maybe it was up to interpretation a little bit.
yeah.
Maybe. And so your suggestion, to, let's narrow it down and then circle back on, okay, this is what we mean and this is what we need. Is it in the bid or out and so forth? One thing about Thrive, they do have a staff member that is a project manager, wouldn't be our project manager, who worked on our facilities study.
Who's that? Or what page?
Hold on. Let's see, go to page 428. And then scroll to. Page 429. Under item 3. Second paragraph.
I don't remember him.
Maybe not part of the interview process. I did not interview with him,
Yeah, there was that woman that was.
Yeah.
Let it.
but I was not impressed with the final product. But then sometimes it's also. I mean, I don't know, maybe that's not fair.
I think if he let it, I would hold that against him.
Yeah.
It's certainly fair to point out.
Yeah. So then go to page, sorry. No, sorry, Nate, go to page 441.
Okay.
They also work, on the ADRC. That's a great building.
Mhm.
But I think that was a remodel. That wasn't a build, was it?
It was very extensive remodel.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
was
they
the
went in
highway
and
building, so they,
completely redid everything and it's beautiful. I mean, it's a really nice
Yeah.
building. The interior, I should say. Okay.
Anything else,
I had Thrive up high on my list.
And what were your big drivers there, Nate?
Just the cost effectiveness
Okay,
was really the having everything included.
okay,
With, again, calling out those 4 site visits being a little bit of a problem.
yeah. I mean, they weren't on the bottom of my list, but they didn't make my top 2.
Jerry, how about you?
Kind of middle.
Me too, black and middle. Okay, one more left.
yes, one more left. This is for Wold Architects and Engineers proposal.
So don't judge me because they're out of state. And there's a lot of things I don't like about this quote, but I kind of liked it. I didn't put them in my top 2, but to be fair, what I have to give them credit for is one, their rendering of the outside of the building looks kind of nice.
Yeah.
The interior designs they show are good. They have comprehensive service. They've received recognition as a top design firm for municipal building design. I don't know how, I mean, we probably should check out whether
Yeah,
that means
where
anything.
the recognition come from?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they're a firm of over 300. They seem like a pretty credible organization. So they got, their bid got my attention. And their interior designs kind of look like I think people have talked about wanting it to look like. I'm not sure others need to speak to that because that's not my expertise, but their process is pretty consistent. There wasn't anything that really stood out there. And I'm trying to look at what their final numbers were. 700 municipal projects.
127,000, I think.
Yeah, I mean, no, and page 488, I mean, there's another building. I mean, I don't know.
I liked them.
And
But I
they have a
agree.
dedicated expert in IT and security.
Yeah.
On that they noted
For
in there.
that too, yeah, and I like that.
No, I didn't get a rise out of you on that one, Nate.
Yeah, I mean, it's, sometimes those guys are good, sometimes these firms are better off having somebody else to look at it.
Well, I'm familiar with Long Grove and Deer Park. It's not far from where we used to live. And in Long Grove, when you look on page 491, they redid their village hall, which is to say beloved is, it'd be like our little cabins and stuff. But what they did to the interior, that was it. They did a great job. And then what they did with their barn in Deer Park, which is right by Long Grove, it's a very historic area and they kept the barn. So they were creative in terms of working with that. Now, doesn't apply to us, Phil.
Yeah.
But they were creative.
To me, I had them as the big, safe choice.
Big, safe, good.
Like, they're a big company. They're a safe pick. But I wonder if we would have much priority from them.
They're big in Chicago, in Illinois.
Yeah, if we would be, yeah, it's an interesting project and we could go to Sister Bay and
Yeah.
eat pizza and go to the beach sometimes when we
Yeah.
visit, and that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they're based in Palatine. I don't think they charge mileage, but.
Hmm.
And their resumes are impressive. I like to have 2 organizational models. I sort of like those. Central and linear. I think it would be more central, I don't know, but, it's kind of nice to. And they also have a web-based project portal. Is that normal?
Those are the kind of things you get with a big, safe.
Yeah.
No, not typically.
Not typically, but then nobody has access except you?
Yeah, I mean, it'd probably just be reported as it goes along.
Okay.
Printouts of how things.
It
are
is
going.
kind of nice to,
But they do, I will say, some firms, like, I mean, they just give a PDF of things at the
Mhm.
weekly meeting, and
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know if there's personally a lot of value, but
Oh, okay,
I think if
Got
there's a
it.
lot of things going on, it could be, but
yeah,
And to me, that's what knocks them down the list a little bit is. They're too big and they're too safe, and I'd rather take a risk with a smaller guy than.
kind of interesting they bid on it. I was a teeny bit surprised, but
They're not on my top of the list, but as you're saying that, Jerry, calling them the big safe pick, that makes me think that we should include them in here. So we have a reference point for others, and maybe they will be part of that, so we bring them to the apples
that's an
comparison.
interesting idea, yeah.
You know, and just to give you an idea, we keep talking about them as big, but this Tower Lakes. Village Hall and Police Facility. The construction cost was $3 million.
I mean, big is in the company. not
Yeah,
the-
no, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's not,
they've
it
done smaller.
looks like their price range. And sometimes the bigger companies. Can be more competitive because of economies of scale.
They're privately held. I don't know if they listed the number of associates, remember.
I mean, it's gotta be a lot, they listed in their thing, 700 municipal projects, like,
Yeah,
that didn't take 13 people.
yeah, I'm not seeing a number necessarily, but.
I mean, when you look at the pictures of their buildings. They do not look like they're from out of state, they look like they're an in-state company. In terms of the farm, rural designs that they're.
I think they can match the aesthetics of what their customers are looking for.
well, I'm looking now and I should have looked maybe a little closer, but they do have offices in Minnesota, Indiana, Colorado, and Tennessee. 330 dedicated staff, 60 licensed architects, 19 licensed design engineers, and 14 interior designers. Been around since
To
1960.
Jerry's point, though, page 493 in the deck, compliance with state and federal laws, they identify 1, 2, 3, 4. 13 counties in the state that they worked in, 11 of them are in the central or northern Wisconsin, none of them are in east, and
Yeah.
none of them are.
Mhm, they're on the west side too, closer
Yeah.
to Minnesota, which is
Yeah.
probably the.
Probably that other
in
Minneapolis
eastern
office.
Minnesota. Mhm. Yep. So they worked in Appleton on something, and that was a village. Nope, that was education and healthcare. Hmm,
And am I reading their cost number was low?
127. I think. So we wanna keep them in the running.
Yeah, I mean,
How many do we have in the running, Ben, according to your?
I might have to make these my number 3.
All right, so you guys liked ADCI. There's also Birchbach and Bolt that were references as well. Let's see, we would say all these were lower. Somerville was a consideration, Thrive Architects, and then Wold as well. So a lot of the ones in the middle were either lower or mid, but
So with Wold, that's 2, 4, 6. Not bad.
Did anybody's top one not make it in there?
Hold on. Actually, I liked Dimension 4, but no. Yeah, that wasn't in there. I liked Dimension 4, but there were the subs you guys had problems with, which I understand. Otherwise, my other 2 were in there. And those were Somerville and ADCI. And number 4 was Bolt. Gary, how about you?
Yeah, in my mind, I kind of categorize them as. If you, there's the big safe, that's Wolf, there's the. Excels at construction and does the other stuff, to me, that's Bolt. There's the, the Birchbach, to me, they're the more hyper local, small guy that, you know, might give us more attention. And to me, making the decision on them is kind of what are we looking for?
Mhm.
Cause there's always risks, but where are we gonna lean in on the risk? And I hate it people say lean in, they just did.
So this is when we want, I don't know, Ben, what's next?
Yeah, so I mean, it just depends on the number you want to narrow down, and then in terms of the process, if we're going back for reevaluation, I'd recommend that if we did do that, that's just calling the references and then providing a summary sheet of what is provided here. And then just whether or not we want to invite any of the firms for a presentation.
I think that's something I'd add to that is just making sure that we have an apples to apples comparison as much as possible. We're not gonna be able to get that exact. But I'd look at, instead of having us do that as a committee, I think that's probably more of having you do it, Ben.
Yep.
And in that case, I would even maybe share that back to those that we had an okay opinion of, but we thought they had gaps. And flesh out whether or not they were bidding on it or not capable of delivering it.
You're saying the ones that did not submit?
So we have 6, right? And Ben and his team are gonna look at this and we'll know which 1 or 2 are the most comprehensive. My guess is that'll be the 2 biggest ones, both, is it both and Wolf?
Do we wanna narrow down to less than 6 or keep?
I don't know.
6 for the comparison.
I think 6 is a lot. I don't know if I'd wanna go beyond 6. I had kind of thought that 5 would be the appropriate number, but at the same point.
Yeah,
5
I
or
would
6
say less is better, Jerry. I don't know the number, but my point was. If those 2 are the most comprehensive, just from scanning it, I think they might be.
Mhm.
Where are the gaps that exist in the other ones and how does the price variation concern?
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking when you say we need more specificity in terms of these comparisons.
I also think that for Bolt in particular, and while Bolt is the top one on my list, we have to understand what that relationship is between the architecture and engineering and the construction and how they deal with that. I'm sure we're not the first time they've got this question asked. And I'm sure they probably
Yeah.
have a canned response, but I would want to
I may have a
understand.
couple page response. that-
Yes.
Yeah, I almost wanna narrow down a little bit more just to keep it a couple fewer choices. For the
Well, one thing that. So back to Bolt and Wold, I think we talked about Wold as keeping just as we like their process, but include them as a reference point, but maybe we don't. It's as much as.
Well, I'd like to understand some specifics of why we would be a priority for
Okay.
them.
Would you ask the same questions then of Bolt?
I think to me, the question on both is more
How do they?
how did they do the?
Yeah, because both kind of proven they're in the geography, right? So they've got projects our size and they've done a lot of work in the county.
Right. The difference
The
between
Wold-
their bids is substantial.
We just see, I mean, I just see them more as they do the construction well,
With
And
the
I-
Bolt,
don't know the
Yeah.
upstream part.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
the Bolt bid was more than the Wolf bid, correct?
Yeah, Bolt was 219 and Wold was 127. But again, I don't know if.
Yeah.
That whole apples to apples thing, but
And if we get down to the point where we have 2 or 3 we're considering, do we let the high people know they're high and if they want to continue to compete, they have to sharpen their pencil? Is that allowable in this process? Or
I
is
mean,
it
we
just,
can-
or do they just get their one chance and that's it?
I mean, we can clarify anything, or if there is preferences on the type or nature of their funding structure. So there can also be things of where if there is certain reimbursables, it's not uncommon to have like an up to amount that's listed. But those are things that would typically be identified within the contract. Yes.
well, the 2 that we all kind of agreed and liked were Birchbach and Somerville. If my notes are right.
Mhm.
So if you start with those 2,
So
So yeah, I think I would narrow it down to those four, Birchbox, Somerville, Bolt, and Wold. And then we do some compare and contrast.
I think that compare and contrast might educate us a little more.
So what goes away is ABCI. Thrive. Right, then. Am I right, then?
Yeah, Birchbox, Bolt, Somerville, and then we had Wold is the other one for
Yeah.
top four.
Yeah,
And
and you like Thrive because it was cost effective.
Yeah, I like Thrive, but at the same point, it's. We have to limit our scope of,
It was middle of the road with everybody else, so
Yeah.
I think that's okay, all right?
and I think. I kind of hope we do get to a point where the top couple are giving us their pitch. So we can ask them questions.
Okay,
So just a consideration on the process is that many of the firms, they have a significant backlog that they are working with in terms of other projects, and that if we want to make sure that we're also being considerate of their time and not stringing them along.
Right.
So in terms of a process, I would just make sure to highlight what we're doing from here on out, so we can communicate with them about what we're looking at in terms of a timeline for selecting a firm. So if it's gonna be for coming back for next month evaluating. Typically it's something for making a recommendation to the governing body above this committee. For recommendation for accepting, but just, I just would make sure to outline what that process is so that can be communicated.
I mean, I know it's a tough time of the year, but if we had to have like a Zoom
an interim meeting,
meeting in between,
I don't disagree. I
I'd be
would do
okay
that.
with that. If it was like a single topic and we could just stay focused on this, I mean, we got through this. I thought very efficiently today.
hour and a half.
so just looking at the timeline and how this would work out is. We have a board meeting the 21st of July. I don't see us getting a recommendation nailed down between here and the 21st of July. If we did this at a regular August meeting, we would then have it for the August board meeting, which is what I would hope to have. But if we need to, I think if we needed to have a special board meeting, it might be an August board meeting, or a special parks meeting, it might be August instead of this month. But that's kind of what I had envisioned on here. I don't want this to drag out any longer than it has to.
Right, but your point is, we're not gonna get it done by the next
In
board
time for
meeting.
the
But,
July board meeting.
Yeah.
but we'll maybe have to do a little extra work to get it by the next one.
Yeah. But I also think that we have a laundry list of things that were put off appropriately. That even if we're on time to do this, we may need to have a special parts meeting to
Yeah.
go over that, to have a single item.
Yeah.
To address.
So is the next steps here, we've asked some clarifying questions, we asked. Ben to do a nice side-by-side table of the four and call out some of the comparables, and then where. You get some blanks, you ask the question of those firms.
Yeah, I think mainly, when we're looking at it, it would be consideration of these different categories, and then in terms of the engineering services provided.
Well, clear understanding what fees or what they're calling out, like,
Correct.
and maybe like, cause for Birchbach, they didn't call out some things that others did and ask what their costs would be, for instance.
Yeah, I mean, if they did provide anything in terms of, like landscaping work, IT work, AV, any of those things, so they're kind of add-ons, whether or not they provide it in-house, or it would be the owner's responsibility, and as an owner, as an us, as the village.
Because if they came back and said, okay, yeah, we do those things, but now your cost is $280 or something, be like, okay, that clarifies it.
So it's IT, AV, security, interior design, landscape design, and furniture. That's what I have on the list. Does anybody have anything else?
I'd also like to have their comprehensive list of exclusions. Make sure that, I mean, that's gonna be a cross check of what you just said, but
Yeah,
Yeah, for all four.
So Louise, just on this interior design, I know that can have a broad scope from. Paint colors to wall covers, like, whatever,
it's,
could have a lot of stuff,
it's window treatment, it's,
could be a lot of stuff, but But what I was gonna say is that a lot of times the office furniture companies in their quote will include some of the design service for cubes and walls and chairs and desks. They'll give you CAD layouts or
Yeah.
design to your requirement as part of the bill of material they create
Yeah.
for their quote.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we can do that, but then we have 4 offices with doors. Right? And then we have, here we go. So we have, we have 3 private workstations, which that's offices with doors. And then we have, we have 7 total. Let me look at it again. Here we go, sorry. We have 4 private workstations with doors. We have 3 flexible workstations, which would be workstations without doors. 2 workstations that are public facing. So yeah, certainly they could. I just don't know. Conference room, AV tech and conferencing. There's a village managers meeting, meeting room. And then there's a bathroom, kitchenette, copy area, it's not a big deal. The lobby, the public bathroom, and the entrance. So some of that decisions have to be made on.
Well, but we haven't set that format yet. I mean, like, we haven't said those are what's gonna be in that building. That's what they got on their suggestions.
Right, but
Okay.
that's what we told them we wanted, and that's what staff said, and that's a version of what originally was discussed.
I think that's what we, to Nate's point, will iterate on them once they're chosen.
Yes,
Uh-huh. Well, those are areas I think that would need some sort of design.
Cohesive interior
Yeah,
design
so it's,
tie-ins.
it was the entire space carpeted, the entryway is gonna have some sort of flooring, and what is that gonna look like? What are the walls gonna look like? What are countertops gonna look like? All that stuff.
Yeah, so bringing it back for the next regular meeting with the items that were discussed.
Okay, so then what's gonna happen is you're gonna go back to, where are we, Birchbox, Somerville, Bolt and Wold, right? And have them. Their task is to give us a complete list of exclusions so that we create an apples to apples.
Well, it's either gonna be parsed out or I'll ask clarifying questions.
Okay, and then we'll come back for this meeting, and then what are we gonna do? There's a couple that. There are 2 that didn't quite make the list, that's ADC and Thrive. Do we get in touch with them? What's protocol? What do we do?
I would just keep to the list that you've identified, or
Okay.
just whatever the top list is, those are the ones
And
that.
then, how do we?
Yeah, otherwise our scope gets too big.
I understand, so we don't communicate at all we chose, let's see, what do we, 1, 2, we chose 4, what about the other 11? Did they get a communication or not?
I would not recommend necessarily cutting anyone off the hook yet.
Mhm.
I would just say once there's a recommendation to the board. For either a top candidate or whatever top few candidates for selection. But throughout the process, just saying that we went through the evaluation process and here's an update on our next steps.
Okay, any more discussion on item 5A? Okay, moving on to 5B, DNR and conference resolution. Everybody should have received an email from Ben today with an update.
Did it go, okay, did it go out today? I think it went out last.
I'm sorry, on Thursday.
Okay,
I beg your
perfect, yeah.
pardon, on
So it
Thursday.
went out on Thursday, just a revised version of the staff report.
Yeah.
It's included in the packet, on the folder packet here. Essentially, the only update is just that the estimates from the village assessor were received on that date. It is providing an update. It is listed within the current status of the other staff report that it was not available at that time. I did receive it, so I ended up just forwarding over the information. Essentially where we left off on the DNR encumbrance issue was that the Parks Committee identified the portions of Waterfront Park that might be good candidates for relieving the encumbrance. And that essentially we needed to meet the different criteria that it needed to align with the market value of the current site, which was $549,000, that it needed to be as close as possible to the place in which it was being replaced for waterfront park, and that it met the overall acreage. So when talking about it for waterfront park, the only real issue was whether or not it met any of the value issues. And according to the assessor, obviously, it's much higher than what we're talking about. So we just need to assess as part of this meeting whether or not we want to move forward with having that portion be encumbered. And if that is acceptable, eventually I would work with the DNR to prepare a revised version of the contract to have it be encumbered in this area and then come back. So we're essentially determining the site that would be encumbered. And at the last meeting, we had some research that we wanted to conduct with the assessor.
I know the DNR has said that they want a both and of size and value.
Correct.
But the original, we went from a very small size to a larger, 0.06 to a 0.6. And now we're trying to replace a 0.6, and the money. Do we have any option to say to the DNR? We'll encumber 41N, for instance, its value is 1.1 million. That's over twice the value that we,
No,
no.
they're very clear in terms of meeting the criteria.
So that be, I know, I don't get it, Julie, but. We forced Ben to ask and answer that question.
I know, and I didn't.
Many times.
So
They gave us
here's,
several different answers.
so
things.
I mean, I'm inclined to just do this. But the question that I thought we might have asked the last time, if I remember correctly from the minutes and being here. Is what are the advantages or disadvantages of the encumbrance? I mean, the reality is, even though our land is valued more than what we got in the grant. If the land is always gonna be used as it is, and there's not a limitation in using it as lakefront public land. Maybe it's fine to just move forward with this. That's the part I'm not exactly sure of yet, because I think Nate asked the question. Are there any limitations that come with the encumbrance? I think you asked something like that, Nate, the last time we were.
Just would need to be its use in perpetuity.
So it has to be public use, so if we decided we want to put a clock tower there for something outrageous that we're not gonna wanna do. We could do that as long as it's for public use. That wouldn't encumber us from doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah, for example, if you ended up putting something in there for like enterprise use that would be leased out, that would obviously not be acceptable, but in terms of it being a recreational use in perpetuity, that's the intention of the
well,
grant.
what about the building we have there that is used by the boat firms
Rental.
to sell tickets for their,
So it's specifically carved out within the past one where it wouldn't lead up to that building.
so we carved that out.
Yeah, so I just mean it would be for the, ideally the green space, and then it was talked
Okay.
about including the dock area as well.
So I'm looking at what was it, maybe no, June meeting, that's when we looked at that. This area, right?
Yep.
We don't have the
So, I
parcel
mean-
numbers, but
In order to move forward on it, for the parcel numbers, that was the ones right there, but in terms of it being identified, it's just working with the assessor to identify the specific area that we'd want
yeah,
to include. And I mean, really, that's just, somewhat of the semantics of it, but we would need to reach the same acreage. And we also just want to make sure not to encumber any buildings, so it'd be mostly green space and dock area that would need to be utilized for that.
so it's a property just, like we discussed, just north of Village Hall,
Yes,
those lots.
and then there is a portion to the south there that is already encumbered from the original waterfront grant.
Marina Park, yeah.
Well, Marina Park, and then there's also another portion of Waterfront Park that is also
Oh,
encumbered to the
okay.
south.
So you're suggesting that, there's 4 parcels. If we don't include Marina Park, because Marina Park is 41N, right? No,
No, I think all these little
Yeah.
sub parcels are the ones that get included and it's the ones.
Oh,
that
okay,
Start at the marina and go to the village hall.
Correct.
So
yeah,
it would
And
be
go
all
north,
of these
okay.
to meet the
All five?
0.6 size
okay,
requirement.
one,
All
And this is just generally
yeah.
him including the entirety of it. So I mean,
But we carved out the little building in the
Yes.
ticket booth.
is that we can, it was specifically described by the DNR is that we can essentially say whatever area that we prefer, as long as it's outlined specifically within the assessment, so. It's just identifying it, it would be as contiguous as possible, having it just be covering the green space in the dock area.
Unless there's some limitation that we aren't aware of here. I'm in favor of doing this.
It seems like
Because
that's kind of our only option.
it's a good option because. It's public land today, it'll be public land in perpetuity,
And we want it that way.
and we want it that way.
yeah, true.
I've got a little bit of a silly question here. And I believe you're gonna say, tell Ben, you're gonna say, no, that doesn't matter, but I'm still gonna ask it. Sadly, the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Program ended on June 30th.
Yeah.
2026. They're still enforcing this program after that fact, even though it's over.
So if you want my political answer, funds were frozen for it. It does not mean it can't come back necessarily. So the program has not been funded, but it is not necessarily not a program.
Okay.
But, and that's kind of the semantics of it, but yes.
Still binding, but not going forward. at
But the
moment.
staff that also operate in terms of the grant management, they do more than just that program. And so they enforce all of the different contracts that the state has with municipalities for other programs as well.
Okay.
So
So,
Knowles Nelson is a banner of like a multiple different funding sources.
Okay.
I actually think I understand that. I would move that we recommend to the village board that we, as described in the attachments, make this agreement with the DNR for a revitalized or revised encumbrance on that property, which then I believe frees up the old property, correct?
Yes, so once everything is executed, then that would be relieved and then this new area would be encumbered.
And then we'll talk about that other piece of property after this is done, but only after this is done.
Okay,
So Ben, my only question would be, when we looked at the map before. 41N, which was valued at 1.1 million in the recent email we got from Zach. Is not one of the 4 parcels that we discussed.
I think it's
Is
just
it
a
now?
small area that is included and really in terms of the area, yes, so the parcel would be included, but it's also not, he's looking at it in terms of the full value of it. So it's overall, what we're trying to say is that it's going to be it's going to be a lot over that value that we actually need.
Right, I know
And
that.
we're looking at it in terms of the area. So as long as we meet the acreage requirements, we're more than likely going to far exceed what we're looking at for the market value.
And the acreage, we would meet the acreage that we needed with.
And
L1.
I think we had to add all of them.
well, it can be parsed out in terms of. what it's
0.690 acres, it was 1L, 0.22 acres, 1L1, 1.15 acres. And then it was 1M, 0.140 acres, and then 1M1, 0.180 acres, that all comes to 0.69 acres,
Yes, trying to get as
Without
close as
41N.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I think he was looking at the blue area and there might have been something that was divided, but
So we're not putting 41N in there, wherever that is, right?
so the area in blue is what's being proposed. And then it also would be up to the assessor to have that formal layout of everything.
Right.
We're including the docks and we're including the green space. We're
Just
trying
can't
to
tell.
just make sure we're getting as much, not going over in terms of the acres, it doesn't necessarily matter what we're looking at in terms of the market value, because we're gonna be significantly higher.
Right. Okay. So he gave us a,
So it's over, I think there might have been one parcel that was snuck in there.
yeah, 41N was not, I mean, he gave us a, estimated value of 1.1 million, but it's not part of these.
Yeah, I don't know which one is the extra one, but I mean,
I mean,
everything.
that's where I was getting confused.
Yeah,
Okay,
So I think it sounds like we're aligned that we carve out 0.6 acres from these pieces
Correct.
and Knowles Nelson encumber them, we'll meet the value, we'll meet the size.
yep,
All done.
yep, exactly, and then the next step would be.
Do we need
Have the
a motion on that, or is that consensus?
So my motion wasn't any good, is that what you're
Oh, I
saying?
don't remember your motion, sorry, second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
So just to
Good
clarify
times to
on
go.
what we're talking for the motion,
Is that all eyes?
Yes,
so just to clarify on the motion that was made, so in terms of bringing it forward to the village board for accepting this area. And then we're gonna move forward with the appraisal and the contract,
well,
so we got the appraisal.
not for,
We didn't get the fancy appraisal.
we got
Oh,
like an
sorry.
estimate, that was the
Okay.
request from the last meeting, was before we go
Then-
out and actually get an appraisal. We work with the village appraiser to determine what the value would be. And so
Okay.
operationally, the next steps would be to get the actual appraisal completed.
Mhm.
And then to bring it to the DNR, and they need to draft a contract that the village would then need to execute with the DNR.
as I understand, I think you meant to make the motion is. Parks is good with that, let's get everything else caught up on there,
Thank
and then
you.
that's all caught up, it goes to the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to come back here.
I may not have worded it correctly, but that was my intent.
So now you're gonna do your thing, Ben,
Yep.
and, you
We'll
know,
move it forward. As discussed,
it'll probably be a little bit, probably be,
it'll be a few months for the appraisal, and then once the DNR gets involved, it might be all the next after that, but.
I just can't see how this is anything but a good deal for them.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think if the
pretty
program
well.
was going forward, they would have a big press release about how they just, $3.5 million. Property was just blah, blah, blah.
Okay, moving on to 5C, cold storage procurement.
Eric, do you wanna cover that one?
Sure, yeah, I reached out to Holden, Sherry, and, they came back and said they're in their quote, it was an architectural shingle that would last around 25 to 30 years. So that was what you guys kind of requested information on,
And to clarify, they didn't come and visit the site or look it over, it was just a
yeah.
blind bid, so to speak.
So, and TK, so 35-1. Okay,
And we were just looking at that specific portion of the bid as well. The
Yeah,
base bid for the
Yeah.
roofing and gutted, and
yeah,
TK
it
did
looks like the
everything.
materials are comparable.
Yes,
Okay.
Okay.
The only other part I remember of this though, is that we had talked about putting the new roof on and spray painting, which you would do before the roof is on, the soffit and fascia.
Yeah, I think
To the
in
right
Holden
color.
Shuri's quote, it included that soffit and painting, as I remember.
And
that
then,
was TK according to this.
They both have soffit painting in it.
Yeah.
yeah, we just need to make sure they're gonna do that first, then roof.
So we need to accept one of these bids?
correct.
Your point of view?
I mean, my point of view is, TK really went above and beyond to put all this together for the committee.
Yeah, he did.
They came back with things included. But then again, Holden is, a cheaper option. I've never actually worked with either one. TK did do Husby's downtown, so I have seen their work and heard good things about them. And if we're gonna be moving forward with the whole building after this, I would lean more towards TK, but then again, I haven't worked with either one.
And remind me, the price difference wasn't that much, correct? What was the price?
35 versus 26.
$8,135.
It is.
I mean, I strongly prefer working with someone local who's been to the site and understands it and is going to be available to follow up, but that's a big price difference.
Yeah, percentage wise, that's a lot.
Yeah, I think that, I feel like we should accept a lower bid,
Yeah.
that is substantial.
Can we give him an opportunity to counter?
Yeah. I mean,
Well,
if you guys-
Is that
Is that,
allowable?
is that advisable?
Yeah, I mean, this one doesn't need, it's not the price point where we need to follow the public things. We're really just doing more so direct procurement. So yeah, if we wanted to ask,
I mean, he's seen this, he's seen the job. And if we're gonna do stuff in the future, I would say that if he's, give him a chance.
are we looking for a specific value? Are we looking to have it be met for the value of Holden Shuri, or is there a specific value that,
Where's Holden Shuri based out of? Not Door County?
I remember looking him up when I
I
was
mean,
far away, but
the other,
I believe our purchase policy states that we can have a certain percentage greater for local vendors. And I would just say that we should, that's what we should look at.
Yeah. That would be a good way to do it.
Are
Then
you familiar with that?
probably just a percentage.
You are familiar?
I thought that was just more Sister Bay. How far out do we push that policy?
Sister Bay are gonna be pretty limited, right? So
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
Door County.
I'd be comfortable saying that this is effectively local,
Okay.
but instead of just coming up with a number, making it up out of air, let's try and have it come from a policy, even if we're stretching
Yeah,
that policy, it's still.
TK, I believe, is what, out of Green Bay, they're home based?
no, they're like Bailey's Harbor Jacksonport.
So
So you
PK
drive
local, I
past
think
it
you're
on
right.
that
Cape
local?
Point.
I swore that I called Green Bay to get them.
You drive past the big thing that says TK stuff between
No.
on the way to Cape Point.
Oh,
No, they're based out of De Pere. They just have a local presence, which
Hmm.
Oh,
I assume that too.
cause their home office was, yeah, in the Green Bay area, which I had to reach out to get. You know, just someone to give you guys all that initial starting information, cause I wasn't getting any traction with any of the local
We came to a meeting.
contractors.
This is the guy that came to the meeting, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
this is him that came to the meeting, and he put that whole package together for you
Yep.
guys.
I would, I would like us to do this sooner rather than later. So I'm against delaying this too long. I would agree that $9,000 at this price point is too much of a percentage difference. I would give the vendor that we prefer because of their effort and their professionalism to this point, we give it one shot. Just say, hey, look, you're high fairly significantly, and let them give you a counter. And you know, if we have a special meeting, or worst case, the next meeting, we make the call on this one and send it to the village board.
What if we have a motion that says if he comes back, with a new, quote, 31,000 or less, we'll take it.
Well, so I'd be worried about doing anything that doesn't conform to something we can reference like a percent.
Well, yeah, we can look that up. That's 10%. 29.7 is 10%.
Let's take the local,
Hold it.
there's a purchasing policy, I don't.
yeah, I have it up here. I'm just not 100% certain offhand what the value is that's listed in there, but I'm warmed up for the financial policies that were adopted in 2025 or consolidated in 2025.
Yeah, it's always best to have a roof done before it gets cold out.
And that's I'm with Mike on his concern too. If we delay this, we're gonna be moving out of the shingle season, and there's no guarantee if we even accept this right now, they're gonna be able to get us on their schedule for this year, cause you know, we're already halfway through 2026.
Okay,
I'm sure these
It's
companies
10%.
that's what I
take a little bit of time to
29.7.
mobilize to, or something like that too. You know, like I said, I prefer TK, but you know, Holden is lower, you know, if you guys wanna go with Holden. it's
So why don't
fine.
you go back to TK and tell him, we can take his bid, but if it's over, if it's greater than 10% over, Holden, which should basically be $29,700, then we gotta go with Holden. And you can be transparent, look, this is
Well,
what, where you.
could we make a motion to that effect of basically,
Then it doesn't hold anything up.
go ahead.
Either we need to get this done and let's go with a low bid, or let's have it come back. I don't,
Well, but I'm saying if,
We
could
make
we word a motion such that we approve TK's bid if he can meet the 10% of the other
It
bid?
doesn't
And
exceed
if he
10%
says
more than,
no, then we accept Holden and go forward.
Yeah.
And if he meets it, then we move forward with him, so
Why-
it doesn't have to come back.
let's direct staff. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay.
sure,
So then we can say, we'll direct staff to get this done, not exceeding this dollar amount.
Right.
Does that work, Ben?
Yeah.
But doesn't this, at some point, does the board have to approve this?
I mean, an expenditure over $25,000.
I mean, it's also not necessarily considered a budgeted item. It would be preferable, at least if we can get a motion saying that it was accepted in some capacity. And whether or not it's the capacity of saying they meet the threshold and we accept the bid, or if it comes back, but.
This body doesn't have the authority to accept a bid.
Mhm.
all right, then that motion that Jerry just said, we would make that motion and then move it to the board, right?
Oh, okay, so let me just, so the motion would be, or excuse me, we're directing staff to reevaluate the two bids and to apply a local preference per policy, and then make a final recommendation to the board at the next board meeting.
That would make sense.
Yeah, no, that's completely fine.
Okay, so we have a decision by in 2 weeks. He's gotta get back to us, but
Well, basically, I think the direction to staff is to find a
Yeah.
roofing bid
Yeah,
for
right.
I gotcha.
31, whatever the
Yeah.
number is. And
Or if,
if
or what-
PK gets there, great, if he doesn't, then Holden goes to the board.
yeah, the only reason I'm not wanting to hold them to a specific number is if TK did all this extra work and was up on the roof and the other guy wasn't here, and his bid's a little higher,
Then the other guy.
there might be some.
The other guy
reason
gets
this
here
year-
and goes, oh yeah, there's 3,000 more because blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
So I think we do what we just said, give TK a chance to tweak his bid and let him know we're trying to give him local preference.
And what was that dollar amount you wanted to
So
go
it's
down?
10% of what the base value.
the base is 26,965. So he would not go over 29,700.
Okay, so we've directed
And that's
staff
it?
on
I
it.
think you missed by 1,000.
I would just say the 10%.
Yeah,
We can-
Yeah, yes.
1.1 total. It is 29,661 and 50 cents, but I could be wrong.
Okay,
This is not in the RFP process.
So this one's not an RFP. This one, it's below the public threshold for public works projects. So this is a direct procurement.
Okay, are we good with you guys? Everybody good?
we direct staff.
Okay, this should be quick. 5D like David, schedule walking tour. So we talked about moving into August, we need to come up with a date. The August meeting is gonna be pretty packed, we probably should come up with a date other than the August meeting. I
I think
think,
some of the impetus to move to August was to decide what was gonna be done with the vacant seat, has there been,
I've asked someone, they're gonna get back to me, so I don't know yet.
okay.
I'll get with him this week to see if he's willing to do it.
So don't want to go off too much on the agenda item, but if anyone is interested, it's published in the Pulse and it also is included on the website as well. On
Right.
boards and committees, there's the application that's included on there.
Right,
If anyone out there is listening that wants to fill out an application for board committees and commissions.
And this is for a citizen member, because the spot changed from a board.
I think it's for,
Placement
and
for a
for a
citizen, right?
stakeholder, right? Is it a stakeholder?
No, I was not able to argue that.
But there were 2 openings, I think.
So 3 resident members.
There was
but the
a
outcome-
resident and then replacing a trustee.
No, There's one.
I think there were two openings, okay,
Just one.
all right.
But yeah, so if we were looking at having that scheduled, but yeah, we are having actions for.
When did
getting
those
that out
ads
there.
go in?
I think it was last,
Last week, okay.
and then everything is on the website.
Okay, if anybody has anybody they think might be interested, please ask them to ask them to apply or give Ben a call to understand how to do it. Okay, back to the walking tour. So,
Well, that's why I was asking, do we want to wait for
oh, till somebody
them to
comes on
be
board?
seated and then to work it out with them on a time? Or schedule it, and if they are seated, then they just have to make the time.
So what is the goal of the walking tour?
To me, it's to identify items that maybe we need to put on a future agenda that have been missed. Like
So-
whether it's delinquencies and how things are being done, improvements that we'd like to see made, you know. It's a way to get us there and to come like,
To look at
oh,
things. Right.
these are some things we'd like to talk about at a future agenda.
Sure, right, that part I get, I mean, to look at things though, I mean, like, Jerry, you and I were both at the park last night. I
Yeah.
mean, like.
Yeah.
Well, I think we focused on certain. Last time we did the entire waterfront, which was a lot. I think the last meeting I suggested or talked about the sports complex. Whether or not we intend to go there or want to include that. In Ben's staff report, he said, review the outdoor rec plan, evaluate ongoing action items, and that's a little vague, but. And observe park amenity needs, if there's anything we need as we walk around, but I think the important thing is to figure out where you're going.
So as to Nate's point, though, we all live here. We should be getting out and about and seeing it, and then if we see something specific, we should just bring it as a future agenda item.
Mhm.
Not necessarily that we all need to be there at the same time, is that your?
Yeah, that's what
point,
I'm
Nate?
saying, I mean, like now, I could see the sports complex being something that I don't know that. That's kind of, I don't wanna say it's upon us as committee members, because there's a lot that's asked of committee members, and there's. A lot less people that are willing to be on committees than there are spots, but, I mean, like the waterfront park, I don't know that we need a. And you may not be suggesting that, but I don't know that we need to walk through that, cause I think I know that all four of us have been in the waterfront park
Right.
this year.
What I worry about, to be honest, to your point, is because I drive by it all the time, I'm really getting worried about the condition of the Lager Quest farm.
And that's on an upcoming agenda because we were gonna have it on this agenda, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it was just too jam packed, we'll be on next month. But, we did, Ben, I don't wanna veer off, Nate did have someone go out and look at the,
But all I was saying,
Anyway.
I just was using that as an example, that might be where at some point it might not be a bad deal for us to walk through the buildings of the barn and see it.
That is a great point, Mike, to have us all go out to Lager Quest, so we can all see what it is, cause that's something we're not. I mean, yes, we can all technically walk through there, but people aren't going there and walking through.
Well, I don't know, I mean, I
doesn't
think of it
feel
as
very
private
public to
property,
be
but I suppose I
so.
shouldn't.
I mean, I've been there a couple
I
of times.
know it's village
and
property, that still doesn't
I've been in two
get right in
buildings,
slope around.
so we would need access to the buildings. And to go and,
Yeah, if we have it, the date that we're looking at doing that.
So it sounds like maybe we don't do general walkthroughs, but we do targeted walkthroughs as a committee.
And I'm not
This-
saying that's the right one, but those
No,
are the things.
I think it's a good point, because we've had conversations
Yeah.
recently about what do we do with the site and what's there and what's the condition for the
Yeah.
appraisers.
well, then another suggestion might be later in the season. Maybe closer to September or something, to go to the sports complex, because at that point they will have broken ground on the ice rink. So we should be looking at what's going on out there, and you should really, I mean, it's, do yourself a favor and go to the soccer field at least on, now it's almost over, but on Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday nights when they're playing soccer, there are a lot of our residents are there with their kids, a lot.
And the Little League game.
Yeah, and there's nowhere to sit. So it'd be good to have some benches out there, at some point, if we can do it. You know, just things, just little stuff. I mean, the dog park, sadly for Eric, I go there every day. And so poor Eric, here's my feedback on the dog park. But, and the dog park is great, so we have a great dog park. All right, so we wanna go to sorry, I'm gonna go to Logquist. Okay, when? Later in August? I mean, Lagerquist isn't gonna really, I don't know, Eric, is there a better time to go to Lagerquist or not? No,
There's nothing happening there,
If
so.
you guys are just going for building review, I mean, later in the season when maybe some of the foliage is out, so you can see some of the structures a little better. Some of them have plants and vegetation surrounding up around them.
so we don't go in August, cause August, like I said, is gonna be kind of jam packed. The actual meeting is, I wouldn't recommend we do it on that same day.
No,
Maybe
if we
append
did
it
it
at the
after
end of
Labor
the
Day?
September meeting.
So we wanna put that on we should just come up with a date now, because we've been fooling around with this for a
Yeah,
bit.
the September looks good for me.
End of
August is fine.
September,
Could we append it on to the September meeting agenda and do it that day?
yeah,
Whenever
September
we're out.
meeting agenda might be,
Oh, is it the first? Is that
no,
the,
it's the seventh.
okay, good.
Well, no, it
No,
can't be the seventh.
Seventh is Labor Day.
Yeah,
that's Labor
so-
Day, so we would have to do it either the eighth or the
Okay.
following Monday.
And if we're gonna do it the following Monday, I don't wanna stack on that because we got village board meeting the next day.
Hmm.
Okay,
Do
so,
we just wanna do either the 8th or the 9th is?
I'm available the eighth.
so we did the eighth, are we saying we're gonna tack Lagerquist onto that?
I'm okay with that.
This is September,
Mhm.
Yep, September 8th.
That's a Tuesday, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't
because
interfere
Labor
with
Day is the.
No,
Other things happening on Tuesdays, okay?
So just with it being noticed, just so you know, that we would have to put a different location for the site, so it'd be preferable if there was a time, not just at the tail end, unless the entire meeting is gonna be held at Lagerquist.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, but just in terms of meeting notice requirements, we need to put the location
For the Lagerquist
But Dave-
walkthrough or the meeting or both?
for the walkthrough.
you really should have it intended as a separate meeting because it's gonna be a separate location.
Correct.
So let's just say.
Okay.
3:30.
Yeah, because we had a well, I mean, we're not done with the agenda yet, but it was pretty full today and it
Yeah.
looks like we might make it by 3:30.
Why don't you say 4? Maybe we'll be early, who knows? All right, 3:30.
I like that pressure on us to make sure that we,
I do too.
So Parks, September 8th, 1 p.m, Lagerquist, September 8th, 3:30.
Perfect.
Okay, next up, are we done with that? You guys all good? Okay, next up is 5E, sports complex bathroom discussion. Let me give some background here. Well, never mind, Ben, because I think you guys might all be aware of what's happened in the past, but Ben, go ahead.
Yeah, so just essentially just putting a clear timeline of how this project came forward and how it ended today for the for the addition for the sports complex concession stand with the additions of the bathroom. So essentially it went through that initially a grant was applied for the community investment fund. It was initially seeking about $100,000 for that project for adding in the bathrooms. It ended up that it went for $75,000 in grant funding that was received. It was determined at that time that it wasn't enough money to fund the entirety of the bathroom plans that were determined at that time. So essentially the funds were declined. And then it went through and there was some additional design services that were conducted for the project. But ultimately, when talking about this, you can see the full history that ultimately it ended up not moving forward. There was some different communication with some third-party groups about whether or not this would be feasible to pick back up. We could certainly apply for the funding source again and see if there is an opportunity to get more than what we initially received. But before doing so, we just wanted to make sure that this project would still be considered feasible and that there's still buy-in from the committee for moving forward on it, because it won't necessarily cost anything to apply, but it will just take resources to get, you know, a revised cost estimate, revise the application and submit it in prior to the community investment fund deadline. In addition, there's also budget considerations that will need to be made for budgeting for the local portion of the project. If we did end up receiving it within 2020, or, you know, constructing it within 2027 as well, which is somewhat of the buy-in pieces as well. That if would be responsible to include that as part of our capital improvement plans. So just as the last thing for the consideration of whether or not we want to reapply, whether or not it's a feasible project. And then we just would, from the staff perspective, if it was, we'd end up moving forward with preparing everything for a grant application for the upcoming deadline of September 28th.
So the background on this is I did circle back with the Community Foundation and I spoke to Jess Holland and we can resubmit. That is not a big deal. So we just take a look at the first grant we submitted. I don't think we have to reinvent the wheel. We take another look at it. But in this case, we would have updated more concrete plans.
We've got some real quotes that we can say, this
Yeah.
is how much we actually.
We'd have some
It
real
would
quotes.
go back and
Yeah.
redetermine if that's the case. But we'd also want to make sure in terms of the project scope that what we have within the plans is what we actually want to move forward with. 'Cause there was-
Meaning year round versus not year round, things like that,
Correct,
right?
and just anything that's the project is that the reason it kind of fell apart was because there was a project scope that was submitted for the grant application, but that didn't meet what the village wanted for an end product, so. We
We
want to
can
make sure
correct that
to,
on a
We can.
reapplication.
And those corrections would probably reduce the price of the.
So,
One quick thing too, just so I just want to walk you through the timeline, 1 second. So the deadline for this SIF, Community Investment Fund grant is September 23rd. The award would come on November 23rd. And you have a long time to use it. So it's not like it comes 11/23, you have to use it by June.
And I'm just trying to understand what would be the impact on the village above so the grant would be for how much and what,
We
I don't
know.
remember.
Oh, how much would we ask for?
Well, would we ask for the total cost? I don't remember what the total cost numbers are. I thought it was like double what the $75,000 grant was that we received last time.
It was actually came in about 220, 225,
Yeah,
something like that.
Well, it says 193.9 for the lowest bid.
Right, and then there were higher ones.
Okay,
So for
so
our
this
unit-
grant application. We would go for more money, but the risk would still be that there could be cost over that. And we're still I'm just trying to understand
Well,
what
that's
decision
why-
we're trying to make.
Well, that's so, if you played it out, Jeff, I'll let you jump in here in a second. And this of course initially came as in partnership with or as a request from the Bays. So, and we've been through that discussion where.
Yeah,
You know.
I support
I know.
phase, I support
I know.
improvements,
I got you.
I'm just trying to understand what
Yeah.
the cost would be.
So let's say that, since we don't know, but let's say we agree on, you know, what needs to be in there. So maybe it's no longer gonna be winterized, so it's not open year round. There's a lot, because we've already got the infrastructure there, right? They,
For winterized.
when McMahon came through.
yeah,
they did, right?
I think
Okay, so that's on there, so now
Just so
hey Jeff, you gotta turn off your.
the line's
unmute
open, just so you know, in
yourself. Sorry.
case you say something you don't want us to
Don't say
hear.
anything bad.
Got it.
About the Parks Committee now, Jeff. Just kidding. So anyway, we come up with not a real bit, but what's it really gonna be? It's not gonna be, I don't think, winterized or whatever, right? Okay, this is what it's gonna cost. I'm making this up. I have no idea, but it's probably gonna be similar. Let's say it's 225 grand, 250, I don't know. I don't know.
So,
And then we
so,
submit a grant for 250. And then I cannot tell you how much we're gonna get.
okay, so let me play this back to you the way I would tell my neighbors about this. We've been trying to figure out a way to get non-taxpayer funding to help us expand what do we call this building?
It's the base concession
The
stand.
concession stand to include 2 bathrooms. And we have a new grant opportunity. We're gonna go after a significant grant. If we're lucky, we get all of it. The likelihood is it will be something less than that. And we would have some financial exposure, but
But we're not committed till we know that number.
okay,
Like if we apply for a $200,000 grant and we get 100, then we would decide, do we
So-
want to pony up 100 to make it happen or?
So here-
Ballpark.
if I could just play this out.
Mhm.
And again, this is just theory, right? But we have a revaluation next year. We're trying to hold the line on spending again this year so that we don't have an increase in our levy. We have a little bit of a lull in capital spending. Even if we had to spend $50,000 of our own money to support an initiative that's very well supported in the village and in the county,
It wouldn't be. the end of
maybe
the world.
this is the time to just do it, is all I'm putting out there.
The other possibility is we could apply for another grant, you know, just because we got, could be,
Yeah.
who knows? Because we could research, there's one that might work for us, that we could research and apply for. And that could, I don't know, might make up the difference, not sure.
In my experience, that's normally no. Normally, it's that you can, normally, well, it depends on the type of grant, but I won't say, I shouldn't have said anything. I don't know if it's gonna be likely that you're gonna be able to cover the entirety of it. There's probably gonna be some local portion. For this specific grant, it appears as though it's $100,000 is what the average,
Recipient is.
yes, what it would be for the actual end result is not necessarily what the request is. It doesn't mention anything in terms of like a local match requirement, such as like a 50-50, but that's
No,
what they
that's not how
indicate.
it works.
Yeah.
I don't know, in my opinion, I think we still want bathrooms there. I think it would be a good thing for the community and the bays. And we should apply for the grant, so then we know how much we're off
And then
and
we
make
can
a
figure out
decision
how we
from
can-
there.
that's the prudent thing to do.
So Jeff, thanks for, I'm sure it's beautiful there, you could be out fishing. No, I know it, so you want to just, thanks for joining, by the way, I told them you weren't gonna be here because you were out of town. You want to just give some input?
Sure, I can make it brief. Mark Lindum was gonna attend on the Bay's behalf, but he's the finance director at Gibraltar Schools, and he texted me earlier and said something had come up on his end, so he couldn't make it. Nonetheless, sounds like you guys are on the right track. The real question that I personally had last time we went through this, not being involved with really writing the grant or specifics, I don't know what was requested. Did the village ask for 150 or 100 or what that number was? I have no idea. I don't really think that at the time when that was put together, we had a firm number as far as construction cost. And I think the two bids we received, and I'm just guessing here, was perhaps one from the builder at the new maintenance building, I think. And then a second one, I'm not sure where that came from, but so there was some kind of, questions as far as where the numbers all came from, what was in there and so forth. When the numbers did come in, we requested John Sawyer, local contractor, take a look at it. He came up with a very similar number, but John did talk about the fact that there's really no way to insulate that building to make it usable in the winter. So it would just be a summer, facility. And talking with Eric a couple of times, it's perfectly fine because you really can't get to it anyway in the winter. It's covered in snow and no one's back there. So those were the things that were kind of on, questions that were hanging out there. And then we just talked about it as a committee and thought this would be a good time to get back on the village's agenda, not knowing the process for funding in the future and grant applications and so forth from a timing standpoint. So that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. So we need to apply by September 23rd, so we can pull the original grant. And we can also look to see what we were awarded. I think it was 100, but it might be more. I don't remember.
When we awarded 75?
Yeah, I thought it was 70, but.
I'm sorry,
but-
we applied,
but some-
beg your pardon. what we
Yeah,
applied.
but some of that kind of doesn't matter anymore. I mean, I think we have a recommendation for Ben via consensus. He
Yeah.
goes and does it.
Yep, so I'd like to say something here, if I can. So we have in our CIP $500,000 to do something out on that property, correct? I mean, we've got another building that's going out there. I think that we need to make sure that all of these plans are working together. If we get money for this grant that just covers this cost, okay, we just do it. But if we're gonna start sinking significant village funds into it, let's make sure that we're doing the big picture plan, not just the right now
Coordinated.
plan. Because this
I
could,
agree.
this could be part of something bigger.
What
Depending on what
other
it is.
building are we talking about? You mean,
There's a community center, or what is our?
oh, in the
terminology?
long-term plan you're
The,
talking about?
like, the extension of the warming house, that, you know.
Yeah, slash
you know,
community
yeah.
center.
Yeah, so that would be, I really think that we need to think about that as we move ahead with this, and if it makes sense to do it on its own, fine, but I think we need to make sure we look through that prism.
And I think I agree with you, Nate, but to me, that's a decision of once we understand what the cost will be, then we'll kind of figure that out.
Sure.
Yeah, and here's the only other thing I'm gonna add to this. Because I've really paid attention to, who's the gentleman, who's
Jeff Pfeiffer.
Jeff Pfeiffer, who I've met actually. And his point is, in the early days, this is primarily a service for our elderly bays. Fans, to give them better access to restrooms. It's sort of a single purpose thing. So I
It
don't,
meets the general bathroom needs, but it also has that specific.
Right.
need that it needs.
and to that point, I don't think it needs to be heated. I do think we need to do it. And I've learned through the couple years on the board here, doggone bathrooms are expensive. I don't understand why, but they are.
No.
So the longer we wait on this decision, these bathrooms are gonna go up in cost, so. I get that. I would say in our long-term plan, we ought to plan that we're gonna have seasonal bathrooms at the baseball park, and a few hundred yards away, maybe we'll have heated bathrooms for the warming house, I don't know, but. I'm kind of advocating that we should probably think about doing this. For figuring out how to do this for the bays and how to do it using as much grant money as possible, and. That's just my 2 cents, I'm sorry, but. That's my 2 cents.
Okay, so if the deadline is 9/23, then we wanna pull that other grant, look at updating it.
Yep.
See what we got initially. I can reach out to Jess again, just to make sure that we're.
I can, I'm gonna have a pre-meeting. just
Right,
before I
she'll walk you through everything, right. Okay, great. So other than, getting back on a winning streak, Jeff, I'm not sure what else we need to talk about. Just kidding. A's.
Well,
Jeez.
the Bays are back in it.
Good, they're always in it. I get so much
They are.
grief from I work in Bailey's, it's not easy.
It was
I
tough
got so
last
much
week.
grief after that game.
Last week was long, tough week.
You'd think that they, anyway, okay, well, I think we're done with that. Jeff, thanks a lot.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Staff reports.
Does anybody have any questions regarding the staff report?
First of all, I think your staff report looks excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Elise.
These are not easy, I know. I mean, you attach this and then you gotta do this, but I like the format. I think you did a great job. Thanks.
So
And,
for
and was
the,
it your guys working on Sunday?
Yeah.
They were kicking butt. I thought everything looked really nice. I took an early morning walk on Sunday. There wasn't their normal trash around. Your guys were already out early. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll pass it along. Thanks, Tom.
Did your guys put out the no parking that was to the north of the village hall?
That was Marina.
Okay.
Sam had talked to me. We were getting, a couple of repeaters that had gone in park and then just like monkey see, monkey do, they started falling in there.
Yeah, I saw it. I was gonna say something today and then I went by there yesterday and it was already dealt with.
Yeah.
Where was it? Were there, 42, where?
North side of the village hall, right by the boathouse.
So they started parking in the grass and then there was one person parking in the grass, then there was two, then there was three.
Once one does it, they are.
Oh, but
they
for sure,
flood
they
that
can,
whole area.
automatically they have permission, for sure.
for the Orchard Drive culvert, when does that get asphalted?
The county has not given me a date yet on that. I would imagine they're in the midst of still installing culverts throughout the community, so I imagine once those are done, they'll do everyone at once. But if I can call Randy and get a hard date if he has one.
Yeah, the reason I was asking is like the Eagle Mechanical across the road there, they put in a culvert and asphalt. And it's rained a bunch and the gravel's washing out and it looks like it's might be a problem for them, not our problem, but their problem.
Yeah.
But I was just we know a lot of water goes through that Orchard Drive spot, so the sooner it gets asphalt, the less the chance of a bunch of gravel washing
Right.
out and having a problem.
I'm really glad we got
You didn't
more
give me a
AEDs.
specific date.
Thank you. So I have a question on the, water quality sign.
Yes,
So, Ben, does this go to, wasn't this gonna go back to finance or to the, because there's a cost involved that we didn't know about, right?
Yeah, so if it's just something that we want to refer for evaluating, that, but yeah, we can either discuss it here or we can.
Well, can we just figure it
Well,
out
I
here?
think we did discuss it here and
We said no. right?
Yeah,
Yeah, to essentially push back on them, was kind of the.
That's what we're in the process of doing.
you guys told me to hold off on making any type of payment until it can get on an agenda item up for discussion.
Okay,
And then my one question to the committee would have been, there is a new head representative for the county that's running this program.
okay.
He did offer to come in and have a discussion with you, if you thought that would be helpful.
So it depends if you want to have it as part of a upcoming agenda item, but
Can
you
you
just
just
need
call
to.
him and talk to him and explain?
Yeah, I mean, it just
Explain
push
our-
it back.
Our position
Sure.
and see what he has to say, because that was it $500?
Yeah, I think it was.
$600 a year.
a year.
600 a year, which we were unaware of, yeah. So you wanna just call him and see what he
Sure.
has to say, and then we can, okay, that. So then it's off your plate and. You can, sorry, Ben will speak with him and then we can decide what we're gonna do.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So Memorial Bench Program, do we need to now, does this? So the different, thanks you for breaking down the costs. So you got an estimate from Bob.
Yes, he eventually, not at the timeline that I was hoping for to get.
Yeah,
it
but you
in
got
front of
one,
you guys.
good.
But yeah, he did get me one. He came in very cost effective, I felt.
Oh, he's really good. I
Yeah,
would take
I mean,
Bob
his-
all day long.
To have his quality of wood shop and his experience,
Oh my God.
he's obviously gonna outdo
Mhm.
us any day of the week. so.
All day long. He's really, really good. He does, I mean, anything you see at the historical. So do we have to make a motion or something on having Bob do the benches, or what do we have to do?
I think that's really more of an administrative side of things, it's
Okay.
just we know we established what the fee would be for charging folks and
Yeah.
then what we do operationally.
Okay, and I think aesthetically, they're gonna look a lot better,
For you.
Well, they're gonna match the materials that we're
Yeah.
using now,
Yeah,
and
they are.
it seems like a slam dunk until Bob
yeah.
retires.
I think the interesting learning though was that they're all over 10 years
Except for
old.
10 years old, yeah. Well, you could sort of look at them and forget and. I didn't hear back from the Historical Society on whether or not they could find a painter for that sign. I'll circle back with them, but I did text them right away.
Perfect.
So, cause you're right, you need that.
That's more of like an art, they don't do
It's a
that.
painting,
Yeah,
yeah. And so there's a sign out there that needs to be painted, and there's a graphic there that needs to be repainted, we need an artist.
yes, that's an
Okay.
artist type of work
Okay.
right there.
I'll keep asking them.
Yeah.
So. I have one other question, and that's related to, there's water that always accumulates on Lampert's, the old Lampert's parking lot. And I'm 90% sure it's a culvert issue. Is that our problem? It's in their parking lot. It doesn't affect 42.
I think it's just the elevation with the drainage. There is a culvert there. to
Yeah.
Accept that and goes.
There's
into
an
the ditch.
enormous amount of vegetation.
Their driveway is just sunken in right there.
Okay.
So it's kind of on them.
So yeah, the people that now own it are looking to lease it, so there's nothing, it doesn't harm anything on 42, I'm not sure. In the winter, it's a little, like it melts and then freezes and stuff, but there's nobody there, I don't know if it makes a difference.
Yeah.
Right now, there's, at any given time, there's 3 or 4 inches of water.
Yeah, anytime it rains significantly, there's a puddle of water that forms there in Lambert's corner of their parking lot there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not affecting public safety.
It doesn't affect the sidewalk or the
That's not
roadway.
in violation of the village
Okay.
ordinance, which isn't, that's on
Okay.
them.
I'm with you, I'm just calling it out, okay.
That brings up a question. So we have a trail there that is ours to maintain, I believe.
The sidewalk, yeah,
Yeah, well, no, there's the multi-use trail.
oh, yeah,
So I think it was 2 years ago, we had allocated $10,000 to maintenance of the trail. And you had come back and said, we didn't spend any of that. We don't need to spend that much money on the trail. I'm just wondering. How does it, what do we do then? How do we actually get that maintained if we budgeted funds that are not expended on it?
What exactly are you looking to expend funds on?
There's potholes. Go look at Carroll House. Carroll House in the area by Carroll House.
Oh, you took the Eagle Mechanical spot right there?
Well, actually, if you went
Was, yeah.
anywhere between the dentist and Eagle Mechanical, there's a number of places that need some work there.
Cause we do fill the potholes, and Eagle is that driveway, is part of the trail. It does get beat up quite significantly.
I mean, I would just say walk that trail there because there's a lot of different potholes in that area. That's not, it's actually more to the south of Eagle Mechanical. Far more so.
Yeah, I could definitely take a walk through there.
and then one other thing we can put on a future, and I don't even know if we can do it, or, but now that we have a fairly livelier business at Peach Barn. And pretty soon, we're gonna have another business across the street when Stoyan opens up the bakery. So I've seen and actually been with good people, people aren't waiting to use the crosswalk at Country Walk Drive. They're crossing, they're one across 42 where Peach Barn is, and do we have any shot of getting, not that, do we have any shot of getting a crosswalk? You would ask me about this, I think.
So I talked to Ben about it. I guess. If you look at the traffic flow,
Yeah,
there's no good crosswalk, because you cross by Country Walk Drive and then you're walking in the ditch or you're walking
Yeah.
through the parking lot.
yeah,
Or you go down and you don't have another.
you're right, you can't, because you don't go from driveway to driveway.
Yeah, I mean, there is no
Okay,
good crosswalk there, so.
Okay.
I mean, like,
So what was discussed was that essentially if we wanted to bring it up, we could create a project for either having an extension of the sidewalk to that area. Or if there was some other crosswalk, more than likely it'd be probably more likely that we'd be able to do a sidewalk extension on that side of the street than we would for.
from where like St. Rosalia's is, and then it's not,
Correct.
get what, and then, yeah, that would be smarter,
Versus doing something where we cross over
yeah.
the highway, cause
Yeah.
I don't know how likely it is for a highway.
That would be, it'd be dangerous no matter what anyway.
But
Yeah.
if that was the case, it would be something that could be budgeted for, as part of the
Okay.
project, but we'd have to get a cost estimate from an engineer. And then we'd go through, very nominal design phase, but it'd be essentially a project to evaluate in the future.
Well, in addition, I mean, honestly, I think Country Walk Drive is a more critical place that we need a sidewalk than. They're both important, but Country Walk Drive is dangerous. Okay,
Sounds like future agenda item stuff.
yeah.
Ben, have we talked to anybody from Ephraim and gotten their thoughts on the cost and the efficiency or the effectiveness of all of the asphalt pathing that they put in? I mean,
it's a sidewalk, Mike.
okay, but it's
It-
asphalt.
It's asphalt, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
I
like,
sidewalk, I think of concrete.
I know
asphalt,
what you're
think of
saying.
Trail. I mean, it looks pretty nice to me. Some people don't like it, but I,
whatever gets a trail, but I got whatever gets a path there is good, but I guess I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure that we're saying it's a sidewalk because it could have been made slightly wider. And it could have been a multi-use.
so theirs is not multi-use.
No, it's,
Just
Okay,
because it doesn't.
it's just
meet
walking then.
The 6 feet with a 1 foot on each side shoulder is what it would
Okay.
have to be for.
And they
both.
did that because they didn't have the width to do it.
I don't know, I don't think that they ended up using any fund, like, federal, state-based or federal
I
funds, so
think they
they
did
can,
it themselves.
they can just do what they want to do.
I'd encourage you to talk to one of your coworkers about that, cause he's got more than a few thoughts on it.
One of my.
Miles.
Oh, okay. Like which one? Okay,
But is that something that we want to refer for that, just pedestrian safety or specifically the project?
well, at some point, I mean, we've been talking about a sidewalk on Country Walk Drive for ever. We stopped it at the Pigs parking lot.
So in our long-term plan,
It's not,
We
I'm not
could
staring at
add-
you.
No, you should be staring at me because the plan commission could have compelled the pig in the country walk shop to do that.
So it's all your.
And yes, it was given advice by staff that says, we don't want people to walk there, so we shouldn't put sidewalks there.
Why do we want, they're gonna walk there anyway. Meanwhile, we have like.
Oh,
400
okay, I'm
vehicles
asking
there.
a different question, a more basic question. So I understand the lingo. What's the difference between a sidewalk and a path or a trail?
Ben, you wanna take that? I mean, it's what's operating on it?
Is it
Well,
material,
pedestrians?
is it width, or is it both?
And then the second part of that question is, in our long-term plan, which of those do we want? I thought it was
Paths.
paths that you could ride bikes or walk on.
Well, I would define it as, I wouldn't say not that thing of what we're talking about, I'd say multi-use trail is a term that we're talking about, and it's just meeting a certain width that all users can be
Okay.
accommodated using it, whereas if we're talking about 4 feet, there wouldn't be enough for all users to enjoy the use at the same time.
Okay, so we need 6 feet.
6, by definition, it'd be 6 feet with 1 foot on each shoulder for, typically a gravel.
Okay,
I've seen, I mean, like ours right now doesn't have gravel, it's just about 6 feet wide.
I'm saying by
Best practice?
yes.
Isn't our 42 trail 10 feet?
It's,
Oh, it's 10 feet.
I don't think it's quite 10 feet.
That's the minimum.
I guess. What I would. My input would be, we really need to start these things.
Well,
and
we need
maybe
some
they're
sort of
not
long-term
perfect.
plan so we can budget and have them. in the
I'm
step.
agreeing with you, but it's a lot more. Easy on the budget if we're breaking this into pieces and funding it and adding to it over time. And sometimes the longer we wait on these things, all we do is create a bigger budget line item. And that's not always the best way to do it. It's a way, but it might not be the best way. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, of course. Eric, any input or anything for the committee?
No, you guys answered my water quality control sign question, that was all I think I had
Okay,
as far as that.
okay, hearing that, I'm gonna move on to matters to be placed on a future agenda referred to a committee official or employee.
I thought that's what we were discussing.
Those paths, sidewalks to Ben.
Okay, and then next regular meeting, I think we said was gonna be August, that was September, August 3rd at 1 PM. Same location. Okay, anything else, guys, we're ready? Okay, motion to adjourn,
So move.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, I know that there was a lot of preparation that went in, you guys worked really hard, I think we did a nice job.
Covered a lot of ground in our